Howdy. So sadly, I missed out on the moment of silence for Heidi Stevenson. I wanted to be sure to pass that along. So I think it would be appropriate to give her a moment of silence, as Heidi died in the line of duty. And we honor all victims in this story. It's tragic. There's 23 victims, and Heidi's death was tragic, and my heart goes out to her family. I thought we could read through a little bit about her. So I thought I could read the official RCMP press release from a year ago. Firstly, I'll say good morning to everybody, or afternoon, my apologies. Linda. We've got Linda. Hello. Down by the bay. Our good friend, such a hard worker. Oh dear. And with us, Glenn B. Sad is in here. Green. How you doing, my friend? Deanna Martell. Paul. Brother Paul. So this was released April 23rd, 2020. Remembering Constable Heidi Stevenson, Regimental 45161. On April 19th, Nova Scotia RCMP lost a hero. Constable Heidi Stevenson was killed while protecting others during an active shooter incident. Heidi graduated from Depot, the RCMP Training Academy, February 2nd, 1996. She spent most of her career in Dartmouth, Cole Harbour, Halifax County, Halifax District, and Enfield, Nova Scotia. She also served 3 years with the musical Ride. Constable Stevenson was loved by many in the communities she served. The flowers being delivered to detachments and vigils being planned across the country are testimonials to many of the lives she touched locally, nationally, and internationally. The RCMP is a family, and we have lost one of our own. Every RCMP employee in Nova Scotia and across the country feels the loss. We are grieving with Constable Stevenson's family and will continue to support them in the days, weeks, and months ahead. A small private funeral is being planned by Constable Stevenson's family and a more formal celebration of life with full regimental component will happen when it's safe to do so. Our employees and communities across the province are finding their own ways to honor her memory. On Friday, April 24th, 2 p.m., RCMP members and employees will honor Constable Stevenson. When safe to do so and when operations permit, members and employees are encouraged to observe a moment of silence. Members of the public can also show their support and honor Constable Stevenson by wearing red tomorrow. I do hope that there seems to be a discrepancy as to the date listed, not to be a total I'm not meaning to be critical. I think it's just fair that whatever, if there's a mistake here with the graduation date in terms of her graduation from depot, they have it listed as February 2nd, 1996. RCMP Graves has it listed as February 26th, 1996. Those are two separate classes. So if that is in fact incorrect on one of those, I do hope that they do correct that. But now there's also a fundraiser that's been started apparently. I'm not sure if people want to watch this. I can definitely link it. I feel odd posting fundraiser stuff, just given everything that's going on, but put on by her friend, Constable Cheryl Pony. Honored through a fitness fundraiser. Maybe it would be worthy of watching, just to keep apprised of what all is going on. If anybody has any articles that they believe should be, they'd like to watch in respect to, or read, sorry, in respect to Heidi, please link them or let me know. Okay, do I have the audio set on this? My apologies. There we go. I don't think there's an article. No, it's just a video.
Well, a really tough couple of days ahead now for the friends and families of victims of the Nova Scotia mass shooting, including the friends and family of Constable Heidi Stevenson. Constable Stevenson lost her life and left behind a loving family and many friends and colleagues, including Constable Cheryl Pony. And Constable Pony is marking the anniversary by holding a special fundraiser tonight to, of course, honor Constable Stevenson and to help Constable Stevenson's family. And with more, Constable Pony, RCMP officer with the Annapolis District RCMP and fitness instructor as well, joins me this morning from Kingston, Nova Scotia. You are in your fitness attire, I see this morning. Constable Pony, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I know apart from being a RCMP officer, this is something else you do on the side. So you are using your skills as a fitness instructor to hold a fantastic fundraiser tonight, which I want to get to in just a moment. Before we do, though, Constable, I want to ask you about Heidi. How did you know Constable Stevenson? What was the connection there?
We went back over 24 years, well, even further than that. We were in Acadia University together. and our first posting was in Cole Harbour Detachment. She got there just prior to me, and so we were kind of both new rookies at the Cole Harbour Detachment, and she worked in the schools, and so did I. She was coaching rugby, I was coaching soccer, so we had a lot of the same kids that we interacted with. And she moved on to bigger and better things. She went on a musical ride, and then she was teaching English in Japan, and then she had some babies, so she was off for a bit. And then we reconnected again back in Enfield Detachment, and that's where we were posted our last posting together.
You know, everyone I talked to, and I had met Constable Stevenson years ago when she did some media, you know, just such a fantastic smile and personality and warmth to Constable Stevenson. What do you remember about her?
Well, we'd always joke in the office because she would come in and smile, and everything was always puppies and rainbows. She was always upbeat and great. And we were like, what is going on? How is she like that all the time? But that was Heidi. She always was. And everyone will tell you that knows her, when you see her smile, it literally lit up a room. It was just, she had that personality that you just couldn't get away from.
Yeah. Where were you, Constable Pony, when you found out that Heidi had lost her life in this tragedy?
I was actually on the phone with a friend of mine that was working in Halifax Regional. So I knew the minute that she was shot. So I was at my cottage that weekend. I was actually, they were looking for extra people to work that weekend prior to the shootings, and I had put in for an overtime shift, but Constable Morrison got it ahead of me, and he worked that day, and luckily he's still alive. He was shot, but I was at my cottage when I was talking to my friend, and she asked me, you know, she said, there's a member in Enfield that was shot. You know, a Stevenson. And I literally fell to my knees at the cottage. My spouse came running upstairs because he heard me scream. It was just surreal, because I've been, you know, we're always close in the RCMP. We have this camaraderie, brother, sisterhood that's, you don't understand unless you're in the RCMP. But when you specifically know someone and worked with them, and she was coming to Cuba with me that May, her whole family on my fitness trip that I was doing as well.
What is this like as someone around the same age as Constable Stevenson, also an RCMP officer, also a female? How has this impacted you, specifically your career as an RCMP officer, and what's changed in the last year for you?
Well, I think sometimes these type of incidents give us a wake-up call, because we go to work and think we're coming home to our family in the evening, and that's not necessarily the case. I mean, I worked Enfield like Heidi did, rural Nova Scotia. You don't think that something like this is ever going to happen. And then the negativity that followed afterwards, the would have, could have, should have, that everybody was telling us that we should have done, unless you're there in that incident. And I don't think anybody could have predicted what could have been done better. It was just something that even all our training in the world did not prepare us for.
What have you heard from Constable Stevenson's family? I know you were, again, a colleague and friend. Do you know how they're doing at this time?
Yeah, I talked to Dean, and I've had the kids and Dean at my cottage last summer. You know, the kids are busy in sports. You know, it's a huge loss. Heidi was ran that show with those kids. Her life were her kids. So I think this anniversary was really, well, I know it was very, very tough for them. And trying to get through the first of everything, her first, you know, birthday that she's gone, the first Christmas, I know was really tough for their family. I keep in constant contact with them just to touch base. And, you know, we can say, reach out and give our condolences and say, you know, we're there for you. We know how you feel, but I don't think until anybody's in that position that they really know what it's like, what they're going through.
Right. You know, you are, you know, putting your money where your mouth is in a big way, Constable Pony, because you are holding a fundraiser tonight to raise money for the Stevenson family, of course. So tell us all about the fundraiser. And there's a reason you're in your workout attire this morning. So hint, hint, it's all about getting physical tonight, right?
Right. And I had this tank top designed for these class. It has Heidi's regimental number on the bottom. And then, of course, Nova Scotia Strong with the date that she was killed. So I did it last year after the shootings. About a week later, I just felt that I needed to do something in her memory. So I conducted I called it Mountie Monday. It was a fitness class on a Monday. And over $7,000 was raised in 1 hour for a class, which went to the RCMP Fallen Members Fund in a fund for her kids in the future. So I figured I'm going to do this every year to keep her memory alive, and I'm doing it again tonight. And as of this morning, there's over $2,500 raised for tonight's class. And also the fitness trip that she was supposed to come on, I'm going to be hopefully doing next year in May, and it's renamed as the Constable Heidi Stevenson Memorial Fitness Trip, and that'll be in Cuba, and her whole family will be attending. So it should be a really great trip if we can get on a plane.
We will certainly follow up with you and hopefully that happens soon. To find out more about the fundraiser tonight, there's still time. I will be joining online. I cannot wait. Constable Pony at 5:30. I'm all signed up. Just find Cheryl online, Constable Cheryl Pony, just Cheryl Pony on Facebook.
Okay, now it's a difficult one for me to navigate because I think Constable Stevenson was one. I consider Constable Stevenson one of the 23, and so I'm not really a big proponent of the us and them, but to honor what they've asked for. And I think those of you who have watched me for a long time understand my feelings on some of what that all represents, but I'm going to do the right thing. And, you know, I really do wish that there was this kind of honor that was placed for all people. Hopefully in the future we will have that. Yeah, I think at that point I'm just going to not say any more. Now, I thought we could discuss a couple of things, and I'm going to need your help, if you don't mind, because I was unable to listen to the Rick Howe show, because that'll be coming up. I'll put that on. I don't know if that entails the entire show or if there's segments that should be played. I will play definitely the first hour so that we got that on kind of record and hear some things. But if there's specific calls that people know about, that kind of where they roughly are, or whatever, we can try and navigate through that together. My apologies. I just don't have radio for Nova Scotia here other than just online, which just popped up. Hopefully it hasn't altered. Things alter. Now, I wanted to follow up with last night's video. Again, actually, I'm going to run this banner across the bottom. I've left descriptions in the box below. And we're going to run through a little bit more on the Greg Mercer article and what the Greg Mercer article represents, because there's a very big picture going on multi facets, in my opinion, and there's evidence to support all that. But might as well just keep it as factual as possible. Let's navigate over to Greg Mercer's page. I think that's interesting on Twitter. The pinned tweet that Mr. Mercer has chosen to have on here is from July 5th, 2020. The article that he's choosing to use is the Red Flags article. Not sure if those of you who are familiar with this is Brenda Bo Forbes hot tub stuff. Now, this was a lot of the feminist narrative stuff being sown. So I find it interesting that this is what he's chosen to have on his page. And I'm just simply putting that down there and out there for your consideration. This is what he has chosen to highlight, is narrative based on, I don't believe, very good evidence. Point was made to me last night, and very rightfully so, that of course the statements that were given by Lisa Banfield, she did phone lawyers immediately, which is rather odd for a victim to do, and also under caution. So that's odd behavior. and one under caution, meaning that they might be charged here with something. She was one of very few people who were questioned under caution. Odd behavior for a victim to be questioned under caution, would say things. And additionally, then further, she gets charged, of course. And they clearly have doubt in their mind when they bring her back, and they're cautioning her. And the secrecy that all surrounds that. The post on Facebook that he had, where was that here? I'm going to share that. Has an interesting pain and confusion. So I've linked that below for those of you who use Facebook. Thank you to Kendall for sharing that link. I'm sorry I didn't get it in the description last night, but it is there now. Pain and confusion has given rise to conspiracy theories and frustration over the lack of answers as victims, families, and area residents prepare to mark the one-year anniversary of the attack. This is what the Globe and Mail has chosen to, as yesterday morning. Okay, so this is prior 11. That would be 11:30 a.m. your time, which was prior to the march in Bible Hill. And that's where this article, I believe, is linked to. Is that correct? Yes. So as was pointed out at the end of the article was written ahead of time. Right at the bottom, you can tell because he's referring to future tense and then inserts data. The word dilapidated, I find a very interesting choice of word because it has appeared by another author. Now, I would implore you deeply to continue. I don't know. I haven't been able to see whether people have actually made contact with the Globe and Mail and or Greg Mercer in reference to this. I noticed that I can't find a tweet in respect to this article that he wrote. I have no problem being proud of what I say, and if I make a mistake, I guess I'm going to apologize. But I'll definitely put a video out and make a link to it. I don't think that there's a difficulty. If there's a serious problem, obviously, I will take information out or apologize for it later. But I never was able to find a tweet for this article, so perhaps maybe leaving something on his pinned tweet might be an idea for those of you that use the Twitter, because I guess obviously since this all happened, a lot of people registered for Twitter. Now we're going to review, apparently there was a phone call that was made this morning, and an apology orally was made. I think that is utterly insufficient. I think that people should be demanding a written retraction, an apology, and obviously the removal of the traumatic information. And Tara has really taken, and this will continue. This will happen to all of us, and that's fine. Sticks and stones, but to do it to a victim is a different thing altogether. Now, let's have a review, because there were alterations made. Let's have a review of what alterations were made, because I did happen to read through. I've left a link for the archived articles below. Again, continue to archive things, archive.is and archive.org. Sometimes archive.org is not very friendly with certain websites, but it's very important because information changes. And hence, the title page on the video indicates that I had 3 hours ago and change. I guess it'd probably be 4 now. The article altered and an apology phone call was made. However, I have never seen any reference to any comment, to the best of my knowledge, that was made publicly to either Mr. Mercer on the comments section in that article, which is open, and I encourage people to leave comments there, tactfully, of course, but asking questions. Why would you dox a family victim? Why are you painting a family victim who has questions in such a light? Because if it's any other family victim, and I'm not playing favorites, I am not. If it's any other family victim, I assure you, I will equally pick up the ball, because that's what we need to do to look out for one another. So, well, Greg is clearly paying attention. If we're reading the article closely, he's paying attention to what's being said. I'm not sure who's telling him where Tara lives and about a YouTube channel, etc., and interviews that she has done where he's getting quotes from that. Anyway, interesting. Dilapidated. Who else wrote that word? Anyway, very disrespectful. Extraordinarily. Hope nobody calls his house dilapidated. That would be very cruel and nasty. And of course, we never want to be that way, because we take the higher road. Nobody would describe victims' families and their houses as such. So there was one alteration made. One alteration. And this oral apology. By the way, the RCMP were notified of this, I believe, and please don't quote me on this, it would be best coming from Tara, that she was told that she could contact Globe Mail. Now, I would think they'd want to help her out. They'd want to make her feel safe, but perhaps I'm mistaken on that one. I do hope that this information gets removed immediately. Otherwise, I could see pending litigation forthcoming. It's not very good to dox people and traumatize people, and I think potentially there could be, potentially, there's basis for a legal claim here. And, that's just if you're not going to do the right thing, you're not going to do the right thing on your own, then sometimes these things need to be implemented. And I'm sure there's lawyers out there who would be happy to take up Tara's cause here, because there are multiple folds she still has not listed in the class action suit. And that would be an interesting contingency fee as a client. Just saying. Plus, many lawyers and other people, benefactors potentially out there, who also equally have been adopted, had their loved one adopted out, their sibling, and have got into this kind of loophole legally where their blood kin, because Mr. Tuck, Aaron, to the best of my knowledge, has no legal blood relatives, and relatives that would be by adoption are quite distant. The adopted parents are dead, etc. It's a complicated case, but Tara is his sister by blood, yet legally she's considered nothing. Now, as I said, Mr. Mercer has incorrectly portrayed that fact that she's just going away, and that absolutely is not the fact. She's actively seeking to have establishment so that she can have her voice to get justice. And I think we need to support her in that. If that, comes down to finally that we're going to have to fundraise or something like that, I think that that's a very worthy cause on multiple platforms, because obviously adoptive reasons and having a voice for her, which I think she has the right to have one. Now, what was the alteration that was made to the article? Let's have a review here. There were two alterations. There was the insertion of a video, which I have not watched, so we'll share that together. And the second thing is of one very blatant, incorrect piece of information, but the image is still sewn. This is very much a psychological piece. A lot of these pieces are all psychological, right? In my estimation. So this is the new updated version. Again, the archived article history is linked below, as is the Facebook and contact information. And please do reach out tactfully, like I said, once again, and ask, please, what would you do if this was your family? Is this how you wish to live in fear? Do you want other people traumatizing you? So this is the old one. Tara Long locks her doors now. There is not a lot of crime. Oh, I'm going to actually skip ahead. Sorry, I apologize. I don't want to dox her. So we're going to actually not do that, because that wouldn't be very good, right? That's not what I'm about. We'll use this one. It's just the cover sheet of what I have from before. Please do not post where this is. Do not support that in any way. If I see that in here, or any mods, those are the people with the blue wrenches, I will encourage you to remove that comment immediately, even though I'm not a big person on editing or censoring. Now, the new article reads, there's not a lot of crime in blank. Okay, so that's still there. The location where she lives. Quiet, which I'm not sure where he got that information exactly. Curious. Perhaps Tara did say it, but she, as to the best of her recollection, but of course she's going through a lot, does not recall saying where she lives. So I'm not sure where he got that information. That would be an interesting one to find out, but maybe she did say it. Blank, Nova Scotia, a quiet rural hamlet tucked into the pine trees of blank. He's very specific about where it is. But that does little to ease her mind. Now, I think Greg Mercer has continued to not ease her mind. In the past year, she's installed a security fence, which is not true. It was a fence for her dog, and I distinctly remember it being built, and she built that with her own two hands, around her house because her dog got hit by a car. Surrounded herself with two large dogs, which she has always had large dogs. She is a trainer, dog trainer. And started arming herself. This is the difference in the article. This was, as I said, there were two. There was an insertion of a piece of information. This was the only alteration made. I read through both articles, and this was the only one. Arming herself, which still portrays quite a slanted view. We still have the continued discussion of, I think that, you can see this. It does not allow her to relax when she's surprised in her own home. When she's surprised, her daughter came up behind her. Then you skip ahead. If I hear any noises in the house at night, I'm freaking around. I'm walking with a baseball bat. That kind of paints a certain image. Not one that's true. And I don't think Mr. Mercer would appreciate that if that were said about his family, about his wife, maybe. If she was by herself. You wouldn't want to say that, would you? About his sister. She lost half of her entire family. Not a kind thing to do. And again, I think shaky ground there legally. Shaky ground. Very shaky ground he's on. So perhaps maybe Globe and Mail can be reminded that that's not a kind thing to do. Perhaps Mr. Mercer can be reminded that that's not a kind thing to do. The rest of the article stays the same, except for, as I said, there is a video, which we're going to get to. If you want to open these articles, I've let people know how to do that in the Discord. I'm not a big person on bending rules, but I did help people with that one so that they can also view the article. But they are archived, so that's fine. Then you can view them for free. Now, I'm going to try to find I need to find the non-archived version. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Actually, I can do it like this. Excuse me. I do think I have one open, though. No, that's archived. How many windows do I have open here? I don't know. Way too many all the time. Right. Is this it? Yes. Okay. So there is this video that has been inserted. I haven't watched it yet. We can watch it together, see what it's about. I have watched some very interesting things in the last day. There's lots to get to at another point. Okay, I do apologize. Hopefully that person is, I think they're out, last I heard. So I do hope that you can forgive me. Okay, so we'll full size this. So this is brought to you by Canadian Press.
I can only imagine how difficult today will be. Even a year later, I know there is no comfort for the anguish of having an adored parent or precious child torn away. I know there are no words for losing a beloved constable and teacher, for mourning respected nurses and corrections officers. So all I can say is this: you are not alone. All Canadians stand with you and grieve with you today and always. This tragedy never should have happened. Not in a place like Portapique, not in any community in Nova Scotia, not anywhere in Canada.
Getting up in the morning to go take your dogs out with, your husband having a gun ready because you can't even go out in your yard. For it to have gotten that far and for other people to have lost their lives and it not to be controlled. We need to work better and do better and just be better. There's so many unanswered questions that we all deserve. Emily was only 17. She was the youngest one besides the baby, that passed, and she had a whole life. She's such a bright future. She could do anything.
We remember your loved ones as the best parents, step-parents, grandparents, and partners. They loved their children fiercely, lived life to the fullest. They enjoyed fishing, bird watching, hunting, the beach, and the outdoors. They loved to travel. They were nurses who looked after our sick and elderly, a teacher who inspired our children, business owners, a volunteer firefighter, a police officer. They wrote poetry, a gifted horseman, an avid Patriots fan, a girl who loved the fiddle, a cancer survivor. They loved Christmas and Harley Davidsons and made homemade pickles for their friends and family.
Everybody is here because of love and support for our fellow Nova Scotians and for the people that we either knew and lost or didn't know and lost. Our province and our country is sad because this shouldn't be able to happen here.
Andrew Vaughn was one of the big photographers that was out doing photos that day. There were a few that were kind of out and about. Now, this is a very difficult one to try to see, but I mean, if you read through the articles, again, please archive everything. I do understand it takes a little bit of time, but it is so helpful to all the rest of us. Keep a record of those too, like just file it away in something, potentially offline is a very good idea. I always encourage the use of these. I lose tons of data, even though I do. And I'm kind of aware of those things. Now, this is a very complicated issue because you mix two separate things, but you're putting them together. Grief and that process, which is an emotional one, and obviously people seeking justice. And sometimes those go across one another. Now, obviously they do. In the case of one of these positions, shall we say, one seeks to have justice, and their record indicates that. The other has never asked any questions. Has asked for a lot of other things, but never any questions. Especially the connections are all very, very interesting, which we'll get into further down the line. But that place, they don't want people to ask questions. And that's a very easy place to get trapped. And I don't think most families want to be trapped in a place of cyclical grief, because you need to have resolution at some point. Any psychologist, funnily enough, will say that. Psychology does seem to ring true in that other component. I'm not going to say much more, but I suspect people are beginning to see that if you bury as you can see, even in that video, you have the melding of two different things going on. I think on that one, I'm probably going to leave it alone. This is very concerted, very purposeful. I had a little discussion this morning with somebody re the flowers. Found that picture rather interesting. It could just be coincidence, but there were two other officers. I think the staff sergeant in Bible Hill, the new staff sergeant that is there, and one other officer may have worn a mask that day, but the officer that was receiving the flowers, so I won't repeat his name because it's not really important to dox anybody. Now, that officer is a person, and that is a very important message that was trying to be conveyed. We are people. We're all people. There is no thin blue line. I funnily enough heard that the thin blue line badges were being worn up at Bible Hill. I didn't understand that was allowed. And to have it yesterday was maybe not the best, but anyway, this isn't to say that I don't support police, because those of you who know me definitely know I support law and order. But if you hide your face, and the cameras were right there to take that picture, it's hard, but you can see the look in the eye. I think that the officer who received those flowers is going to have a lot of difficulty. And other officers who see that, they know what the red roses mean. But it makes it impersonal. It takes the humanity away, the mask, right? He's a person, and he hurts too. And to bring him on side with the rest of us, and it's not an us versus them. I spoke. It's not an us versus them. He did not put on, yes, it's a, maybe we can have a little look, because somebody was very kind and I uploaded that video. And those of you who have videos, please do share them. I really appreciate it, because I want to try and get some together. Oh dear, apparently has a great list put together already. Always so fast on the ball. Different minds work well, you know, it's so wonderful to watch. Let's see if we can find that here. I did upload it this morning. No, it may be nothing, maybe nothing, maybe nothing, and I'm totally willing to say that, but let's see, this is not very nice of them to make this all blurry and such. Let's hope that cleans up. Okay, there we go. That's not the person who made the video fault. So we'll watch the officer receiving the flowers. The media there, of course. We had this interesting character. There was a lot of camera, and police seem to know who this individual is. Just going to leave it at that. There's lots of pictures of him. I'm sure somebody will be able to identify him. But I liked how he was trying to, and I heard a certain family member really stepped up to the plate. That was how it was done, apparently. It was a code word in case somebody had a issue, because this was concern. This is a concern, an ongoing concern that somebody's going to try to paint people in certain lights. Isn't this interesting how this is coming out? And so the code word was hugs. And a certain family member hugged this individual when they tried to interfere with the interview. And that family member hugged that person. I haven't spoken with them yet. I'm still giving everybody their space. And I don't know, that's just the way I am. I will maybe in a day or two, or perhaps they'll reach out to me, and that would be great. But hug this person and help them move along. Not in a violent way or in a forceful way, just with love and no, we're not having any kind of, shenanigans. So very beautiful and wonderful. That's the way things are done. Yeah, maybe he was there for a reason, potentially, maybe. Maybe he's part of all of this. Don't know. Don't want to be, it's just interesting. The RCMP know him. All right, now let's move forward here. Sorry. We can see that members are here and not wearing masks. And they're not within public, but obviously they're within each other's space, in the office, etc. It seems to, I guess offices are okay, same if it's your house. Now, here we have the officer with the mask. Again, in the background, you can see another officer who is not wearing a mask, I believe. And we'll see, as you see, we have press here. Let's just kind of watch what happens. Oops, sorry. The roses are being given to him. Must be really tough for that officer. Being filmed, we're not going to see his face, of course, right? Just like you don't see it in the Greg Mercer article. Cut off the mask. I mean, masks are important to push on everybody, right? It's part of, they want everybody to wear masks, so it's interesting that they would remove that, but see all the stuff. You're actually going to see, I think, Red is going to come in here in a moment. There'll be a cameraman who comes in and takes that right away, of course. Very interesting. Who had a reversible jacket. So, it's very interesting how that all worked. Hello! I didn't want to further bother you, my friend. Here we go. Do you see? Do you see? And the cameras get right in. There'll be somebody, I think, who runs in actually and takes a picture. Here we go. There we go, right here. Oh, we don't want to paint a certain image here. Let's get that on camera. Let's get the cameraman over there filming it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe nothing. Maybe he just saw a good time. It's interesting how the journalists seem to think it was a great time. He doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything. Agent provocateur possible? I think maybe. So we have Tara speaking. Why don't we listen to that? I don't want to make her sound abnormal.
What else to say? We're so blessed. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for bringing us together in this horrific way that none of us ever were hoping to meet
each other. I would have rather meet you all at a barbecue, but what do you want to do? This office, and thank you guys for making sure that we had a place to speak and that we were able to be heard, because you know I'm pretty quiet.
So there we see the officer walking off in the background. I believe this is the staff sergeant, so possibly he doesn't want to be seen. Possibly he's concerned about the pandemic. I'm not going to touch that anyways. We'll just leave it at whatever. The wearing masks stuff. But we saw the officer walk away with the mask. Now let's continue to watch.
Everybody here has lost something, at least something, and we're all here together. Please make sure if you see somebody struggling, you see somebody, or you think that somebody might be struggling, reach out to them, contact them, message them, even if you just say, I'm thinking about you. We can't leave anyone behind, because we've all been left behind, right? They're gone and we're all left behind. If you want to have something to say, please come up and say anything and pray, or just please, hopefully you're better at talking than I am.
Now please watch the officer who laid the flowers. He's behind the speaker right now, standing in front of the door. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe I'm just seeing things and it's just, let's see.
Family members only, I'm sorry. I'm going to leave now. Exit's there. I would just ask the cop, give that woman a conversation once a week for 1 hour. Put the cards on the table.
I believe this man has taken off his other toque. He was wearing 2 toques and reversed his jacket, kind of like what they do in jail. When you go to remand, wear 2 pairs of pants so you don't have to clean one, right? You wear, and also if you change it around, you look different. There's the hugs.
Anybody else, or am I just going to stand up here being super?
No. Family members only, I'm sorry. I'm going to leave now. Exit's there. I would just ask the cop.
This is because the individual in the red coat wished to make his own scene. I'm sure the cameras were taking active note. Very good foresight on all of your part to come up with a strategic, compassionate plan showing peacefulness with the code word hugs.
Give that woman a conversation once a week for 1 hour. Put the cards on the table.
Anybody else, or am I just going to stand up here being super tall? Okay, we're heading back, everyone. God bless you all. Thank you so much for coming out and for praying and just for everything.
Okay, something's going to happen here.
Bit of energy that you're sending out. Thank you so much.
Love you.
We love you all. There's so much love here that it's unbelievable, and there's nothing. We will find the answers to what happened because of the love that is here. And
Did you catch it? He took his mask off. Now, some of you actually spoke to this officer. I would love to know if the mask was on at that point in time. Would be very interesting. The red coat made 2 separate scenes. Very interesting. Okay.
we don't give up.
Yeah, maybe it's nothing. You let me know what you think. I do know some people spoke to this officer. Maybe there was a 6-foot distance at that point in time. I have no idea. But if they spoke to them, then why did they need it when they got the roses? Because they spoke to people without the mask at that point. Or with the mask, getting roses, then go off to speak to other people without a mask. Just saying. Interesting. I'd love to work in the think tank. I know what I'd do. Yeah. Blinders. Just veils we wear. The Rick Howe show. I would love some help with that. He wore Blue Jays under everything, on your business. Thank you very much for a hat. I feel odd wearing it, but because it has certain things on it, but I don't think they're actually legible, which is great. Thank you for all coming. Redcoat wandered down to Pictou Road in the aftermath and was in and out of people's driveways. Is there a camera? Very good. So wonderful of one family member who I'm not going to call out by name, who stepped forward and dealt with that photo op. Got it quashed. Now, I would like to go through the Rick Howe show with people because I've heard that there are some, you guys are fantastic for all going down. Oh, sorry. One thing before I get to that. Now, I think I was advised last night that it may be a very good idea, and I think equally it would be an extraordinary idea to start to increase the pressure a little bit. You know, everybody's getting some experience with this now, how to do it properly. You know, it's a learning process in terms of how to respond to certain things. There's a lot of people right now who are very concerned. The propaganda machine is going full tilt, and that's why you're seeing a lot of articles about two different things going on. Very prevalent in one. Justice and emotion versus sheer emotion. Now, why not continue that pressure? Peaceable pressure. I think it would be a good idea to start to organize an event. Let me know what you think in Halifax at the RCMP station down there, the headquarters. Similar for the 18th next month. Keep it up, and you're going to see a lot of progress. Cards will be shown, and I think this would be a very good thing to continue doing, and I do hope that people won't let this go, because that's very important. Any thoughts on that? You can't see? Okay, good. Good. You know. It was a very kind gift. Very kind, but you know how I am with stuff. You like that idea, okay? Tara called and she rousted me from my couch this morning. I don't live in my basement, but I don't sleep in my bed anymore. Now, I sleep on the couch, and she woke me up and she said, I feel so much better after last night. Just the love that I felt from everybody. So huge thank you to all of you for your continued support, being here for one another and being here for all the family. And hopefully we'll have more family coming forward and feeling brave, because this is not a Tara show by any stretch. Tara is just my connection to it. However, this is 23 and never to be forgotten that way. Thank you. I'm glad it looks good. Okay. Feels very nice. Now, do we have any more feedback on the quietly placing souls, signs over power poles of Colchester County, words like truth, transparency, plaid ribbon? Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting thought. I think though the roses is very has a huge impact on the RCMP, but I'm just passing along. A tip. Keep the pressure up. Very important. You know me. I don't speak. I speak in riddles, right? I think it's a good idea. Just change put a new event on. New sign up. Turnout was very big. I suspect next time will be even bigger. Very good, very good. Let's see here. What else do we have? I'm up for a midnight venture. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We're all doing what's rightfully ours. And I was thinking that we should do some organized PR and branding. Come up with a name for our group, done hashtags and a series of set of FAQs. There's also going to be, in respect to the Mercer thing, I believe something is going to be organized a little bit more. But I do encourage people as individuals, because this is an individual thing. And, you can't really attack a whole group of individuals. It's the same principle, but in reverse. You can't attack you can't really attack a group. You can attack individuals, but you can't take down a movement. Submitting questions over live stream and answer them. I would love to do that. I would love to do something like that. I know we had some kind of thoughts, and I know it's, what did he say? Loosely knit. It is. It's grassroots. Come on. I can't even unmute a microphone. I don't have all kinds of fancy dancy sound stages and 5 camera angles. Slow-mo video effects. Very interesting. Again, I'm speaking riddles all the time. Now, maybe a post on the March to Remember 23 site. That would be great. Yeah, we can sit around, maybe I would love to have more interaction with people. What about leaving a single red rose with a ribbon and 23 wrapped around it at RCMP detachments? That's a very good idea too. It doesn't have to be reserved for Halifax. However, in Nova Scotia, I think it's important that Halifax understands, but in individual areas, there's RCMP offices everywhere. You can all take a rose and go down there on the 19th of every month and say, listen, I just wanted to let you know, I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of Heidi. I'm thinking of all of them, right? because we don't want to single any one person out. Use people. That's not a very good thing. Sorry, going back here a little bit. Working on it now. Transparency Squad. Okay. Maybe we can. If it comes to that, I do hope somebody will just step forward out of the kindness of their heart, especially in the legal field, and help Tara out here. Because there's a lot of different issues here that need to be helped with. And, it's not as though there's not. We got to work a little bit more actively and get somebody who's heavily trained in class actions. I think I've got a couple of names. Maybe we'll reach out to them because that's what they do, class actions. Maybe a road trip to Pictou. I'm all for doing that. Okay, good. Got some support here for that idea. RCMP, Caper de Burt. What did Caper? Remember 23, Nova Scotia. I think that's a great name. I've got 2 detachments local here. 1 rose a month is easy. Rose is fairly inexpensive. And have, buy a roll of ribbon, put some names on it, or just put 23. We love you all. That's important. Okay, so now to Rick Howe. Don't know if there's been any editing. I don't know. I think I've found where that's happened before, but it's tough to tell that one. So we have the show here. The shows are here, and that's why I want to get a kind of permanent record. Hopefully people are also equally downloading videos and kind of just stashing those away because they're good to have for future reference. There's lots of little ways you can do that. I'm not going to get into that at this point in time. So I believe that the 10 a.m. show obviously seems pertinent. We have Member of Parliament Cumberland Lenore Zann, who also is involved with a certain group, joins us this morning to reflect on the past year of grief following Nova Scotia's mass shooting. I'm curious to hear I haven't heard any of this, so it'll all be news to me, as to what kind of justice Lenore Zann is seeking. I know there was a lot of conflict with family. Some very rude and nasty things were said. And notice how Lenore wasn't present yesterday. Also, following Nova Scotia's mass shooting last April, a law professor at Dalhousie, Wayne McKay, says the glacial pace of the RCMP's investigation does not reflect well on the Mounties. There was an excellent interview with a former, I think he was a superintendent, and he said, yeah, very serious problem going on here with the transparency. Has to take a step back from the local, municipal, and provincial policing. That's coming from I think, 30-year veteran. So lots of RCMP speaking up. Great to hear. Canadians and people from around the world donated $6.2 million to help the families in Nova Scotia affected by mass shooting. And we've got the latest from Bill Lawler, provincial director of the Red Cross, which of course was helped out by Nova Scotia, government of Nova Scotia. And Case Vandenhoek is a board member of the Nova Scotia Remembers Legacy Society and updates us yesterday on how the memorial advance went. I'm not sure where Charlene is, or Tara, or any of the numerous other family members where their slot is, but perhaps maybe Rick might be like to reminded about that. That might be worthy of doing, reminding press of how there's 2 sides to this story. Please don't tell one. Seems almost like you don't want people to ask questions now. If people can help me with the, yes, I do understand. I do understand. I'm a bit long-winded, but trust me, I've been around this game, and there's a lot of points that I'm making, even if they're not quite understood at the time. They do subsequently usually get understood. Now, and the people who are in important places that do happen to watch, they certainly know what I'm talking about. Now, what other hours featured calls? I'll put this on, obviously, so we can all listen and enjoy. But I did hear that there were some really good calls. So if you could let me know, maybe in the Discord, those of you who are in the Discord can send me a private message. I'll open that up. Of course, thank you very much, as always, to people. Of course, look, I've got messages. Always got messages and emails and things. I'm running behind. As to where certain other calls might be after 10 a.m., that would be great. Or we can just listen the full 3 hours. I don't know. But I'd love to find out. So if you DM me on the Discord, I'll get that. But we'll start with this one. 47 minutes, 35 seconds long.
Hey, welcome to your Monday morning. Some sunshine out there for you today. Looks like we've got a decent weather forecast. Things warming up, which is great to see this early spring day. I'd like to thank Mr. Rick Howe for having me sit in, of course. Always a privilege, my good friend. Thanks to Katie Hartai as well, the producer of the show. Hi, Katie. Katie gave me a nice wave through the glass as she sips her coffee. I think it's coffee. We've got a lot to talk about today, and it's a grim anniversary, to use that term. A memorial service was held in memory of 22 people slain during a killer's rampage in rural Nova Scotia 1 year ago. You know all of this, of course. Yesterday, the somber event was held at the First United Church in Truro. Wasn't open to the public because of COVID, obviously. It was live streamed on Facebook. The Prime Minister shared some remarks through a pre-recorded statement. Ian Rankin, the Premier of the province, was there, of course. And we're going to talk about this today because it is 1 year, and we have to mark it and pay homage to this, not homage, reflect on this grim event. And we're going to do it in a number of ways. Wayne McKay will join us in a little bit. He's a law professor at Dalhousie University, and we know that the RCMP have been under intense scrutiny over how they've handled all this and a lack of transparency, and there are a lot of questions unanswered concerning this whole thing, and we'll try and unpackage some of that with Wayne McKay in just a little bit later in this half hour. Lots of fundraising happened over the last year, including with the Red Cross, which raised over $6 million for the families affected by the mass shooting. Bill Lawler's the provincial director with the Red Cross. He joins us to talk about the fundraising efforts after the 10:30 news. Case Vandenhoek, I chatted with Case last week. He's a board member with Nova Scotia Remembers Legacy Society, and they planned a number of events over the last week or so, including a run and some other things. They've been very busy trying to mark this event and help people heal from all of this. And we'll get an update on how all of this went with Case at about 10:45. We're going to open the phone lines between 11 and 12 today. You can talk about whatever you'd like. I'm sure some of you will have some comments on Portapic and the year that was, but it is an open hour, so whatever's on your mind. It's called Manic Monday. We'll be opening the phone lines again between 11 and 12. And it is Monday. That means counselors on the hot seat. And joining me today will be Way Mason and Paul Russell, HRM counselors, and we'll have the phone lines open again for that segment to find out if you've got some questions, queries, complaints, criticism, maybe some compliments. Why not, eh? For the counselors, no chance probably of that happening. But nonetheless, thanks so much for tuning in and listening, everybody. We so very much appreciate it. And again, as mentioned, I look forward to hearing from you in just a little bit, in about an hour when we open the phone lines. Now, as mentioned, it's been 1 year since these mass shootings. Joining me to talk about all of this is the Member of Parliament for Cumberland Colchester, Lenore Zan. Lenore, thanks for doing this today. I appreciate your time very much.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a very difficult week and a difficult weekend. So thanks for having me.
You got it. So what participation did you have in the events? Tell me about this tough week and this weekend for you.
Well, this week was a matter of reflecting back to the entire year, which really started like today 1 year ago on the 19th when I first received a call from the Prime Minister's office on a Sunday morning asking me to lock my doors and windows and not answer the door if anybody came to it because there was a shooter, armed and dangerous, were the exact words, a shooter who had already killed people, armed and dangerous, who was on his way to Truro, and they weren't sure whose home he was headed to next. That's how the day started. I asked if there was some way we could tell people how was anybody going to know, and they informed me that the RCMP had tweeted it on Twitter. I said, well, that's not going to be any good for my community because most people aren't on Twitter. And I said, at least it should be on Facebook, but what about a public alert system like the one we'd had the week before when they alerted everybody to stay home from COVID? And I was told, well, that was up to the province and the RCMP. They were talking about it, but for now, all they'd done was put it out on Twitter. And so I said, well, why don't I share that on Facebook at least to try and alert more people? So I did that. And it was about maybe an hour later. I just kept watching that Twitter feed and I saw maybe about an hour later that they said that they had the person of the suspect in custody. And then shortly after that, they said that person had been shot dead. So it was an intense day a year ago, and then it just grew from there. So yesterday was really a matter of remembering all of the lives that were lost, and we honored them in many ways. There was the memorial for the families. There were walks through the woods. There were runs. There was a march. I chose to do the walk in the woods, and I did it at the end of the day. It was very gray and rainy and cold, but it really was moving to see all of the markers and the messages there for each of the family members that were lost. And also I was asked to be on a panel on CTV to talk about grief and also the assault to our senses, the trauma that we've all experienced over the last year.
Well, listen, I wanted to get more, I wanted to drill down more into that phone call. Is that just parliamentary procedure that you would get that call? As to what triggers that type of a call from Ottawa?
To be honest, I have no idea, other than that they had just heard that this guy was on the move, I guess. The RCMP had just posted it on Twitter that morning, and they wanted to know if I knew, and I didn't. I mean, it's a Sunday morning. Who goes on Twitter unless you're a journalist or something, you know. So yeah, it was shocking. You know, I mean, it was just completely shocking. And again, I said, well, isn't there some kind of an alarm system that that should go off? So I was surprised about that there wasn't some kind of alarm system. And once I started to learn more details, I thought, well, gee, why didn't they do it the night before? You know.
Yeah. So what
the Sat-
type of? So you said you posted something on Facebook. What was the content of what you posted? Kind of basically.
Just said like something like emergency, attention, emergency, armed man, armed and dangerous, heading to Truro. Lock your doors, windows. Do not engage. If you see him, call 911. Basically, I mean, just that.
So you weren't told, Lenore, that he was dressed up as a Mountie and in a patrol car. You didn't get that detail then, or did you?
Well, I saw it in the picture that was on Twitter. So what I did was I copied and pasted that. Like I took a snapshot of that and I put that on my Facebook and just said armed and dangerous man. And they had a picture of a car and they had this circle drawn around a number on that car.
Yeah, I remember the picture. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just basically copied and pasted what was there. I also put a picture of him because they had his grinning face, if you can remember.
Yeah, I can.
On well, and I'd never heard of him. I didn't have a clue who he was. And to be honest, it was still the details were fuzzy. Like all they told me was that he was armed and dangerous and that he had already killed. But I didn't know who or how many or where or anything like that. And as it turned out later on, we found out that he'd actually come and gone through Truro already by the time I got that message. There were videos.
Lenore, what type of response did you get on Facebook? Did your Facebook light up or?
Yeah, it did actually. A lot of people were like, oh, responding, oh my God, da 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 da. One or two people might have said, oh yes, oh yeah, I heard about this on Twitter or the radio or something like that. But I mean, it did go pretty quickly through Facebook when I put it there. But again, I mean, it's not ideal. Obviously, you personally, I think that the alarm that had gone off the week before, and they put off the alarm a week later as well when they, again, COVID things, and when they thought there was a shooter in Halifax somewhere, they put that out. So, I still remain convinced to this day that they should have done that.
All right. So when it came to calling for a public inquiry into this, it was the federal government was putting it back on the province, and the province was sending it back to the feds, which is your government, of course, the Liberal government, and they were both claiming jurisdictional issues. So do you think that your government, whomever, right up to the top level, the Prime Minister, should have championed sooner a public inquiry than they did?
Well, it's hard for me to know who was doing what and saying what behind the scenes. All I know is that what I did was 3 weeks after the shooting, I sent out a public tweet because that's what I figured was the best way at that point to bring people's attention politically to the situation. And I just said that I support and endorse a public inquiry into the largest mass shooting in Canada's history. And I'd like to see a feminist analysis included due to the shooter's domestic violence history with domestic violence, time to stop femicides and abuse now, something like that. And I wrote to Bill Blair several times. Actually, he never did write back.
Wow.
And I spoke to the Prime Minister's office a number of times, and they said, that it was up to the province, blah, blah, blah. The province said it was up to the feds. The two of them were not making the decision, but I definitely felt that we needed a public inquiry, and I said so the entire time. And then when we didn't get one, I was incredibly disappointed. But I immediately turned around and said to them again that we needed a public inquiry, that my constituents, Nova Scotians, deserved it, the families deserved it,
and that a review just wasn't going to be enough. And, you know, they could see by then that the public was doing exactly what I had said that the public would do, which I said, you know, it will rain fire and brimstone if we don't get a public inquiry. And I was right. And it took them, I think it was a Thursday that they announced it was just going to be a review. And by the Monday, they had changed their minds. And during that time, I met with the woman who is my liaison with the Prime Minister's office. She came to Truro, met with me in my house here in the backyard, and I talked to her for an hour and was really frustrated about why they hadn't listened to me, and the fact that, okay, here you can see everything I told you would happen is happening, and you need to reverse this immediately. So.
All right. So I'm reading some stories this morning and throughout the weekend, and there are people who don't have faith that this public inquiry is going to get the job done. They still feel that the RCMP there's a real lack of transparency, and that we'll never really get all the fullness when it comes to answers here. What are your thoughts on moving forward and what's now in place and getting answers that the public is desperately wanting here?
Well, the Mass Casualty Commission came to Truro a few weeks ago. They alerted me that they were coming into Truro, and they rented an office where they were going to be meeting with family members and anybody else who had anything to say pertaining to the mass shooting, if they had any information, whatever. They were here for a few days. I don't know how many people they saw. They told me when they were leaving, and I would take it that they met with a number of people. I offered to meet with them if they need any information from me or anything. They said thank you. They'll keep that in mind. Here's the thing: when it comes to these kinds of investigations, one of the things that the public safety minister said to me on the phone during the week that when we were finding out just how many casualties there were, how many people were killed, it kept happening like day after day. More bodies were found, and that was the hard part for everybody, was waiting to see, was it your loved one, a friend, who was it? And at one point he said to me, Lenore, it's really bad and you should just be prepared. And I said, well, how bad? He said, well, I can't give you numbers, but it's going to be really bad. And I'll put it this way. He said, at this point, there are 16 crime scenes.
Wow.
So that means, he said, we're going to have to go through them with a fine tooth comb. And that's going to take time. So obviously, it's not like Law and Order where everything gets wrapped up in an hour. And it's not like those crime shows where, everything's all pat and dry and cut and dry. It's messy, it's ugly, and it does take time. So I'm glad we have a public inquiry. I want them to do their job and to be able to do it properly. And the first report is supposed to be coming out next May, I believe, May in 2022. And then the final one 6 months later. So I'm of the feeling that let's let them do their job. Let's let them interview all the people that they're going to interview and follow the clues, follow the breadcrumbs, follow it and see what what the story is. Because I don't know. I don't know any more than anybody else.
Right.
I find out what I find out on in the newspaper or on TV.
Yeah.
But I think some people seem to be caught up with these theories, these conspiracy theories, and they spin off into science fiction land where it's like all of us are all involved. Like I've been reading things where they think the people who put on the memorial this weekend, the people who set up the marathons, everything, that everybody's all in cahoots with the RCMP and the government, and that they're all trying to prevent the truth from coming out. I mean, nothing could be farther from the truth.
Right.
It was the families put them on.
Yeah.
The families, it's not like everybody's all trying to prevent the absolute truth from coming out. And this is what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Lenore, I'm just up against a break, but thank you so much for doing this. I just truly appreciate your time, and we'll continue to touch base with you about all of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, take care. That's Lenore Zan, Member of Parliament for Cumberland Colchester. We'll continue to talk about all of this with Wayne McKay when we come back. All right, joining me to talk about picking or carrying on with the conversation with Lenore Zan concerning the mass shootings, the RCMP, calls for public inquiry and unanswered questions, is a retired law professor, now Professor Emeritus at Dalhousie University, Wayne McKay. Wayne, thanks for doing this today. I always appreciate your time, of course.
No problem at all.
All right, so what are the remaining questions? And I know that's a pretty broad question, but what do you think, if you were to bullet point the top questions that really, really need to come out of this at some point? What are the remaining questions? Probably tons of them, but what do you think?
There are a lot, but I think one of the biggest questions is really how did this happen? That's the overarching question. How did 22 people and one unborn child die over that period of time without being able to stop it? That's the broad question. And under that, I think one of the main questions is how effectively did the RCMP respond to the tragic situation? I think that's the key question remaining that the inquiry will hopefully shed some light on. Another question I think of some significance is how did what triggered in the gunman in all of this to do this, and what role domestic violence played in that, because there's quite a bit of evidence that has now come out that was early on a part of what triggered the rampage. So that's a very important question as well. And I suppose the broad question, a third possibility, is how do we intervene with people before this kind of mass violence occurs? Because there's quite a bit of evidence that the police did have some signs that the gunman had issues with violence and that kind of thing, which were not responded to. And I suppose a fourth broad one would be why was there so much delay, and even yet, why is there so much delay in getting on with the public inquiry, with the government initially going for the review and then backing down and appointing the public inquiry, and even as we speak, I know things are going on behind the scenes, but the inquiry has not begun. So those would be a few of the many top questions to be addressed.
Yeah, and the public alert system not being used, I think that's just a staggering question, right? That's directly tied in with why 22 people died. That's a direct link, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's a very large question, and we've narrowed that down perhaps a little bit. At the time of the tragedy, I think it wasn't entirely clear how the blame should be apportioned between the government and the RCMP for not putting out a broad alert earlier and going with Twitter, even in an area where that was not widely used. But now recent documents indicate that it was really the RCMP who did not trigger the system, that they had to call and tell the alert people to do it. Now, seems to me there's still some question there, whether did they then try to contact the RCMP and try to say, listen, this seems to be really problematic, as they sit there for 3 hours. So yes, absolutely, the alert system is a big question as well.
Yeah, the wheels of justice grind slowly. We get that, and the shooter's dead, so there's no trial here. So I guess this is the trial in a way, this public inquiry, right? And on trial I guess in some ways are the Mounties, right? And is that accurate to say, or no?
I think that's actually pretty accurate. And the more information we get from the redacted search warrants and other bits of information from just about everywhere, there are a lot of concerns raised about how this was handled by the RCMP. You know, did they not properly use resources such as the Truro Police, which might have been helpful? The alert question, why was that handled the way it was? The communication or significant lack of communication throughout the whole process. So many questions, and increasingly, at least what appears to be emerging as a not very effective, and some might even say chaotic response to the tragic situation.
Yeah, look, the command center in who was ever on duty and wherever those, I think it might have been Halifax or wherever the command center is, it wouldn't be too hard to nail down who was in charge, or who, if it were a couple of people or whatever it might be. That would be where it would all start, would it not? Any inquiry, what came in, who made these initial decisions, and throughout the day. I don't think it would be that complex. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's a good start. I think there are many layers, and it does certainly appear that there was a management and direction issue, but it also appears to have been a major breakdown in communications, both figuratively and literally. Apparently, the shooting at the Onslow Fire Hall was in part because the radio systems wouldn't allow them to check with their superiors about whether or not this likely was the gunman that they were shooting at. So there's that kind of thing. But then there's others, even bigger communication issues, such as the fact that, contrary to what we were originally told, some RCMP knew early on that the identity of the gunman, and that he was dressed as a police officer and driving a police cruiser, or one that looked like it. Even though the early position was they didn't know that till the next day. They actually knew that much earlier. So I think there's so many levels, but I think you raise a very good point. There seems to be, with what we know at the moment, some lack of clear direction as to how to proceed.
In the end, do you feel that if somebody is not held accountable in some way, and I don't know what accountable looks like, that the public just won't be satisfied? If there's simply an inquiry, the results are tabled for public consumption, and that's the end of it, that the public just won't be enough. What are your thoughts on that quickly?
I think you are correct in that. I mean, it's public inquiries have many roles, and one of them is to be clear about the facts and clear about what did go wrong in this kind of case. But I do think that a lot of people, the immediate families, who of course deserve all our sympathy and concern, but the broad public as well, do want to find out what went wrong. And in part, that usually does mean identifying, at least in broad terms, categories. Rarely do public inquiries name people to be sort of pursued legally. They maybe in rare cases, but very rare. So in that sense, there may be some disappointment. It's unlikely that the public inquiry will come up with a list of people to be held accountable. But I think in the broad sense, that's what we're looking for. You know, what went wrong and who were the culprits, and perhaps most importantly of all, how can we change that going forward?
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Wayne, for your insight, and let's chat again real soon. Thank you.
Be happy to do that.
All right. You take care of that. It's Wayne McKay, Dalhousie, retired law professor, now professor emeritus. The Red Cross has, over the last year, among other fundraising efforts, raised over $6 million. We'll talk about that when we come back. All right. Over the past year, there's been a lot of fundraising in the wake of the Portapique mass shootings, including the Red Cross raising over $6 million. Joining me to chat about all this is Bill Lawler, Provincial Director with the Red Cross. Bill, thanks for doing this on your Monday morning. We appreciate your time.
It's good to connect with you again, Todd.
You got it. Okay, so when did fundraising start after this happened? How quickly were you mobilized and realized and recognized the need?
Fundraising started within a few days in the aftermath of this, and it was actually on request from the province of Nova Scotia. They were receiving, you can imagine a plethora of offers of support right across the country. And in addition to that, you may recall in the early days, there was some concern, real or perceived, of some of the other online fundraising activities. Not every family knew who was behind each of those. And while most of them were certainly seemed to be above board and all legitimate, there were some concerns of one or two. And with that combined with the outpouring of support, the province reached out and said, Red Cross, would you consider fundraising and distributing these funds?
What was the response like compared, I guess, to other fundraising drives and initiatives? Was this, I would assume this was vigorous when it comes to people's response?
Yeah, it's difficult always to compare, every time we launch an appeal for whatever the event is. I mean, things motivate, different things rather motivate donors. I think with this, it was just such an emotional and just horribly tragic circumstance that had extensive media coverage, not just over the couple of days as the tragedy unfolded, but in the, days and weeks after that. So it kept it top of mind for people who, may not have any connection to Nova Scotia, but it was, certainly national news for quite some time. And that amount of coverage certainly helped to promote the awareness of the fund. And people certainly just felt compassion and wanted to do whatever they could to support these families.
Are you still raising funds for this, or is the fundraising drive wrapped up?
No, we did close it in the fall, and we've been working right from the beginning with the families. And it was important and a request from the families that we did close off the fund so that we could bring some closure to the overall distribution, which we knew was going to take some time. But again, we closed it at their request.
All right. How did you determine and who did you work with when it comes to dispensing the money? And from what I've read, it wasn't just simply 22 families divided equally. A lot goes into this type of thing. Can you explain some of the methodology surrounding who gets what?
Yeah, thanks for that opportunity. There's been a lot of questions we've received over the several months of, equal versus equitable distribution. And so equal would be, as you said, you divided by the number of people impacted, and everybody would get the same amount. But equitable is a different approach, and that's the approach that we had taken and communicated that we would take right from the beginning. Step back for just a really brief moment, but we also, before we started the distribution, as funds were still coming in, we did a scan and connected with others who had raised, other types of funds across Canada for other, tragic events where there were mass casualties. And we looked at how they had distributed, what were some of the, difficulties or challenges, and took those all into consideration. But I also, I guess, at the risk of repeating myself, want to say that every step of the way, we connected and communicated with the families. We wanted them to be a part of the process, understanding that it would take some time. Not everybody would be ready at the same time, I should say. And we wanted to make sure that people were ready to come to us when they felt good and ready. As you can appreciate, those were some very, and still are, very difficult days. But in the weeks and months following, it was very, very difficult for the families.
All right.
So we took
Sorry, go ahead, Bill. Go ahead.
We took 60%. First of all, anytime if somebody communicated with us that they had an immediate urgent financial need as a result of this tragedy, we distributed some funds right away because those circumstances. That took place in the very early days. But then it took a few more months where we worked with the families and distributed 60% so that we took all of the families that were impacted, had conversations with them, and then distributed a 60% of that 6.2 million. As we started to, get down to the end of that phase, if you will, we then made outreach to the families and said, okay, now with this next 40%, we're going to be working with the more complex scenarios as a result of the lost loved ones. And we really put an emphasis and focus on minors or dependent surviving children. That's where we really put the efforts towards that 40%. And we certainly provided opportunities for families if they felt that there was some extraordinary needs as a result to please reach out. We had, as you could appreciate, we had families reach out to us and say, thanks so much for this. I do not require anymore, or we do not require anymore. We'd like you to take whatever you might have been considering to give us from this remaining 40% to a family who would be more in need. So that certainly those types of conversations happened as well.
What about community partners? Because this would have been, you're relying obviously on some people in the communities to administer. I would think that this would be laborious to go through all of this. And did you have some volunteers helping on the ground?
Well, because of COVID-19, of course, we did all of our, conversations with the families were over, either over video or phone. for obvious reasons, I suppose. But we certainly worked with organizations who were on the ground and already providing support to families, and most notably, I would say, Nova Scotia Victim Services, particularly in the early days, so that we could, we weren't out promoting to everyone to reach up to the Red Cross. We really wanted to pay particular focus to the families who were impacted. So they were very helpful, both the Victim Services and Nova Scotia RCMP, to make sure that families knew how to reach us for this specific circumstance.
Must have been really difficult, though, to make decisions, I would think, at some point, right? Because the need would outweigh, and maybe it didn't, but has the need outweighed the response?
Well, as you can appreciate, and certainly your listeners, that every household circumstance would be different. There'd be a unique factor to it. And honestly, it wouldn't matter what the amount of money was. It would never certainly, help to mitigate the tremendous loss that these families are feeling. So we just did the best that we could with what we had. And for the most part, we received a very favorable response of that from the families. I mean, under, trying times, of course. And we're not finished. Certainly the funds have been all committed, but we're still working with the families, and we'll be doing that for probably the next, I would say, several months, 2 or 3 months perhaps, until the rest of the funds are completely dispersed. But it's certainly, I have to give full credit to our team who, spent many, many hours in conversations and, very difficult conversations with family members, of course, as they were, grieving, but also, looking for what types of available support might be there for them.
And might you potentially open up fundraising again? You mentioned it's closed, and for the reasons that you indicated, and it makes total sense. But could you potentially look at a second fundraising initiative, or is that not going to happen?
It's certainly not on the table for consideration now. And again, the reason we did it in the first place, it was a request for us to do so.
Right.
But no, there's been no conversation to date, and it would be unusual for us to reopen a second fundraiser for a longer term.
Yeah. Bill, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity again. Good to chat with you.
All right, take care. Bill Lawler, provincial director with the Red Cross, and he mentioned that there were some concerns about fundraising initiatives that wouldn't be legitimate. That happened with the Humboldt circumstance, and it's just unbelievable that people will be opportunistic when it comes to this type of thing and just take advantage of people's emotions. It's just really, really sad that happens. But for obviously the Red Cross and all the legitimate fundraising, the need was great and is great, as you can imagine. With, as he mentioned, some of the families that have lost parents, and there were dependents resulting from this, and it's great that they were able to raise this kind of money. Absolutely, it was sad that it was needed, but great that it was done. The Nova Scotia Remembers Legacy Society was busy over the last number of weeks leading up to this event. We'll talk about that when we come back. All right. Joining me is Kees Vandenhoek, a board member of the Nova Scotia Remembers Legacy Society. And lots to talk about. Kees, thanks for doing this today. I appreciate your time, of course.
Yep, no problem at all.
Okay, so tell us about the past week and the weekend. You had lots planned, including a race, and just tell us, review what you guys were up to over the past week or so.
Well, we had extremely busy few days of preparation just before the race and events took place, and some late nights and early mornings, and the race was overwhelming success, and the memorial event was quite well received, I think, and it was a full emotional weekend, I would say.
Absolutely. Do you feel as though that people have, closure's not the right word, because how do you ever get closure for something like this? And there's so many unanswered questions and all of that. But was it cathartic in some way, therapeutic in some way? I'm sure it was. Can you get into that a bit?
It definitely was. I was mostly involved with the race portion and the walk. So I did have a bit of dealings with some of the families and before and after. And for them, I'm sure it was all over the board. I can't imagine what that 1 year mark would be like for them, but there was tears. I'm sure there was. I'm sure it helped a lot of them, even process it a little bit. And I'm sure the support of all the people that came out. I really hope that helped them a little bit as well. That they, that there was folks to stand there from 6 feet away, beside them.
Are you anticipating perhaps that each year, I know that you just got past this first year, but are you anticipating that events like this will be held annually?
Yes, the run has been talked about. The memorial events for the families, that's more in their hands. We will just be there to support however we can. But the race, we are talking about that being an annual thing for sure. And I'm sure that people for years to come will, like, if you drive around, you see flags everywhere, you see 23 hearts, you see all those things. I'm sure that will be going on for a long, long time.
Yeah, and it would be, I think, appropriate to someday do this without COVID restrictions as well. I think that would be really, really needed at some point to be able to have some type of mass gathering or whatever you want to call it, where people can congregate in any amounts of numbers to truly, truly, finally, publicly grieve this thing collectively in one space. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I absolutely agree. Not being able to do that really, really slows it down for a lot of people. People need that human contact, and like I said, from 6 feet away, it's quite difficult to do. Right? People need touch. They need to give those hugs. They need to receive those hugs, and doing that all from a distance and virtually makes it really, a really hard process.
How much were people talking about the RCMP component to all of this and the lack of transparency, the unanswered questions? Were you hearing much of that, or were you hearing people remembering the victims, and what were some of the things that you were hearing people talk about over the last number of days?
I personally heard almost nothing about that. Like I said, I was involved with the race. People were using the race to remember. They were doing it in honor of, and I never really heard much about that. There was a little bit here and there, but not really much. I think it was more of a time to remember those, that were lost. And I think the focus that I experienced was on that.
Were you surprised by that at all? What's your comments or thoughts on that?
I don't think I was really surprised. You heard a fair amount of that before, and when it came down to the day, I found that the people were really just, they were remembering. Some people kind of went back to a state of shock that it was it's almost unbelievable that it was a year ago. So people were just, some of them were kind of brought back to that time, and it was quite a somber day of just remembrance, I found.
If people want to know more about the Nova Scotia Remembers Legacy Society, is there somewhere they can go? Is Facebook page, social media? Where can they go?
Yep. We have quite a social media presence. It's the Nova Scotia Remembers Legacy Society on Facebook, and then we also have a website as well. And if you search, you'll find us right away. We have all kinds of information about who we are, what we're trying to do, which is basically being a support mechanism for the families and communities. And we're just getting started.
Case, thank you so much for your hard work on this, and let's keep in touch. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, take care. You got it. Case Vandenhoek, board member with the Nova Scotia Remembers Legacy Society. I wanted to bring Katie Hartai in for a quick chat about all of this. And obviously, Katie, the public inquiry that was not announced initially and the government dug its heels in, many give Rick a lot of credit for making that happen. I don't know how much credit he gets, but certainly some, because of he was tireless in and tell everybody about that. I think we should do that based on the fact that Rick really had a big role in all of that. Eh, Katie?
Yeah, I think Rick is a very humble person, and so he may not admit to playing, as much of a role as he did.
Yeah.
Um, but there are certain things that Rick um, will decide, these are issues that we need to talk about. And that just so happened to be one of them because, that's what the people said. This is really important. We need to talk about it. And we need for this to happen. So,
But he did more than just talk about it, right? He had, and you were part of it as well. I mean, he called for a letter writing campaign and all of that. Let everybody know what you guys did.
yeah, I mean, I think that's about it, Todd. We would talk about it tirelessly. And he did have some kind of phone campaign, I believe.
Yeah, he had a phone campaign. He was admonishing everybody to bombard the members of Parliament, Mark Fury, the Premier, everybody involved, to just bombard their inboxes with demands for this. And the outreach was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say it was. And, it wasn't just here. There were many outlets doing similar things just so that Nova Scotians could be heard, and they were.
Yeah. And of course, what are your thoughts, I guess, quickly on the lack of transparency? Because you were producing all of these shows, you've heard all of these callers. Just what are your thoughts on that, I guess?
I guess it's the whole thing is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that, an inquiry wasn't the first thing to happen, that people weren't listened to. But I'm glad that, government realized that's what needed to happen. And, it's hard to think that we won't be hearing these, I don't know, we won't be hearing the first report until May of next year, which seems like a long time to spend working on these things, but I suppose it's not something that should be rushed.
Yeah.
Hopefully people get the answers that they need to heal.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. That's Katie Hartai, of course, the producer of the show. And like she mentioned, Rick is, I mean, he was relentless when it came to the public inquiry. And I just remember day after day, the phone lines were jammed on this show with Rick hosting, and it was just people endlessly screaming for a public inquiry, and it had an impact, and that's what it's all about, right? That's what it's all about. The fact that the premier of the day, Stephen McNeil, was adamant in that they were going to simply have a hearing and not an inquiry. And dug his heels in, was emotional about it, as a matter of fact. Just the Friday before that following Monday or Tuesday, whenever they decided to change their mind, Stephen McNeil was just adamant, and he listed his reasons why, and didn't appear as though that he was going to change his mind. And then suddenly he did, and it was the public outcry and backlash is what did it. That's what did it. Let's call it what it is. Nonetheless, what is on your mind today? I'd like to hear from you. If you want to talk about all of this, I want to hear from you. Certainly, we can reflect on the year since this happened and all the questions surrounding it with the RCMP. Maybe you want to talk about it in a more reflective way, from a more personal way. Whatever it might be, here's an opportunity to hear from you, or maybe you've got something else on your mind. We've got an open hour. 902-405-6000 is the way to reach us, or 877-801-8255. Again, the number is 902-405-6000 or 877-801-8255. An open hour when we come back.
Okay, unmute. There we go. Right? Unmute. Very important. Interesting things in there. Wow, lots of interesting things. Jeez. I wish I could convey myself and what I know in a better way. But it'll all unfold as it should, right? God has a plan. Now, let's get to the open calls, because I've heard that there are some interesting ones in there. Is it just the first hour? Is there anything in the next what have they got here? Have they changed this? 4253. 4253. So it looks to be the same. Okay, so a book. No, I don't write books. I don't need any. I'm good. I'm good. Busy enough, and I certainly am. God has been good to me, so I'm okay. Now, I don't do things for attention's sake or money's sake. Or my soul is going to remain intact. Need to go to the 33 hour of the 11 o'clock, I think. Should we just listen to all the calls? I don't know. There'll be a plethora of other stuff. You can give 95.7. At least they're talking about it, I guess. They were talking about it back then. I did think it was a little slanted, but, you know, better than not talking at all, right? I look so spiffy today. Oh, thank you. And there are more presents. I'm so, I'm so fortunate. And I thank everyone for their kind gifts. I don't know what to say. I'm a card guy. I do cards. And I got a beautiful card. That person knows. And very fortunate to have that. Very touched. Now, enough about that kind of bollocks, as in prezzies. So, you see jealousy in the hat. Thank you to that person. Very, very kind of them. Yes, it was. I don't even want to say what it says on it, but it's very, very nice. Very nice. I feel awkward wearing it. However, now, okay, too much Chrono stuff. 12 and 33 marks. Is that it? Is there 2 calls on there? Does everybody concur? You can do that. 12 and 33. 33. Love the number.
I think is interesting is this call by the federal government for.
Oh, stop. Okay. Can we move along to the program, please? Please. Making me feel very awkward right now. Thank you for very kind gifts. Now, is it just the 2 calls? I accept graciously. And just thank you. A third call and then a third call at the end. Is that everybody concur? I don't know what's all on there. I don't know. Anybody else have any other calls that they think, or do we want to listen to the other stuff too? You can let me know if it's different.
The provinces, including ours, to divert our healthcare workers and resources to Ontario and Quebec and other hard-hit areas, and diverting some of our vaccine supply and shipments as well. And Ian Rankin, the premier of this province, dug his heels in on Friday and said, "Nah, that's not going to happen. At least he doesn't want it to happen. We'll see what the federal government does." What are your thoughts on that? Should we be diverting our resources to help other provinces, including vaccine? Do you think that that's the right thing to do, or do you feel that we should take care of ourselves first and foremost? 902-405-6000 or 877-801-8255. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, Todd. My condolences to the families. I know it's a tough time for them. Listen, the reason I want an inquiry is that morning on the I went to a gas station for gas, and on the radio, Rick was saying that there was a shooting, and the guy was up in Portapique and stuff like that. Well, it turns out I went for gas at the Enfield Big Stop, and I filled gas, and I noticed a bunch of cop cars over across the highway. I thought they were setting up a radar. Well, as it turns out, if I had a warning, I wouldn't be at that gas station, because 10 minutes later, they killed him.
Yeah. Well, actually, Ken, it was me on the air. It was a Sunday, and we had reports from very limited information from the RCMP, basically that tweet that they sent out, and that was it.
Yeah.
And we were working the phones. Our newsroom was working the phones that morning, and we were getting people calling our radio station, starting to tell us some of the things that were happening in that area. But we are in the news business, have to rely on the RCMP on official channels.
Oh, exactly.
So we couldn't just go on the air and say that. So we didn't know. And again, this is to the point where if I had known, I was on the air, we had thousands of people listening. Yeah. I could have broadcasted out, look, this is what's going on. Avoid this, so that's just one example of an opportunity. Yours example is an opportunity missed, right?
Listen, absolutely. And by the way, I saw the picture. I filled up gas right beside him.
Yeah. Wow.
So he wasn't there yet, thank God.
Yeah.
But this is the point around who cares if they call 911 10 million times?
Exactly.
There were people put in harm's way for no reason. Period.
No reason.
No reason.
And,
so I just wanted
to use Twitter, Ken. I mean, first of all, anybody who is on Twitter following the RCMP, right. Most people don't. Very small percent of people do. But even of those who do, who's checking it on a Sunday morning, right? So it's just ridiculous that they did not use the public alert system.
50 to 70% of people do not have a feed on Twitter, so they would never have seen anything.
Oh, it'd be more than that. It'd be more than that, Ken. It'd be more than that. I'll bet you 5% or less use Twitter and check it.
Yeah.
Almost
nobody. I
want
people to really think about what happened to me, because I drove away and the cops were actually moving at that time. So they were going to fill up gas and they killed him 5 minutes later. Yeah. So there's an example of why that thing is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Ken.
That day you guys probably saved lives. So
no, we didn't, Ken. We didn't, because we didn't know any information. We did not know that there was a guy on the loose. Well, we knew that he was on the loose and armed, but we didn't know he was driving an RCMP cruiser or a replica.
Correct.
We did not know he was dressed up as an RCMP officer. We had no idea that is, I think, pretty important information, really. Don't you think, Ken?
Dear God, Todd, rewind this. If you guys had been alerted, if there had been alerts on everybody's phones, ponder the implications of how much fewer people would have been affected by this.
Absolutely.
It is just disgusting what they did.
Yeah.
Period. There's just no other word for it. I just wanted to throw that out to people to show just how important that cell phone message is to people. It's critical.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, and all the best to you.
All right, appreciate it. And it's true. Look, I think it's completely logical that lives would have been saved if, in fact, they would have sent out a release, notified newsrooms, including ours. We were on the air at 8 o'clock that morning and saying, look, this is what's going on. We would have been able to definitely make a difference and save lives. There's no doubt about that in the public alert system, and somebody needs to be held accountable for that. 902-405-6000. Marilyn, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. You?
I have a comment on the travel-related COVID cases.
Okay.
And it's a question that I would really like to hear you ask Dr. Strand the next time you have him on as a guest.
Okay.
We have.
Okay, we'll get to the 33 mark. Is that the next call? I don't know. Is anybody else listening? Just sad? I'd still like to know what the hell's going on here then. Why is there this? You know? What's going down? I mean, Darren even seemed to get it wrong. And apparently that clock isn't off time. So what's happening there? Did he say that a time there? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Did he say he just said 5 minutes before he was killed? So that would be 11:21. I'm going to have to listen to that call again. And perhaps O'Dear will share her insights. Yeah. Still having struggles with this one. Oh, this was Blinks. This was a surveillance photo that Darren Campbell still story. This is very important always to clarify. These are stills from video. Of course, we can't ever get the video, right? That seems to be a real difficult one. I can put up video. I'm sure the RCMP with CSE and all of their wonderfulness, disposal, Five Eyes unit can put up video. 24th. What was the other mention I heard there in the 24th? There was an event that took place prior. Oh, yes. The moment of silence. Did you catch that earlier? The RCMP moment of silence for Heidi Stevenson was on the 24th. The 24th. The vigil was on the 24th. The RCMP press conference, first one, major one, 24th. 24th is a busy day. Seems like they were going to catch a little heat. Even though the vigil was already done. Now, this photo, they flashed up there, and Darren was quite, this was actually what they showed. And then they decided to change the time on the photo there. And you can see it there in the background. He's got the screen up. I guess he thought everybody was a dodo. 11:23 a.m. Mazda. It's not red now. It's just Mazda. It was red on the 24th. Exits Highway 102 and travels to the Irving Big Stop. 11:23. But Darren kind of even stumbles because you saw the photo, 10:31. If you actually use the closed captioning, Highway 102, our last video. No, it's not a video. It's a still, but thanks. It's a picture taken from the video, which we've already seen some evidence that there's some fun things going on with those, that we have a suspect. The suspect is crossing at 10:11:23. Darren struggled with it too. Odd. Notice how they are also saying suspect here? It's now just concluded. The narrative is finalized. What was it that Leather said? We're still in the process of writing that up. Something to that effect. Do you remember that? Oh dear, certainly will. Something about we're still writing. Something along those lines. I found the words really spooky. Not to get too tinfoily, but perhaps maybe somebody can help me with what happened there. Darren gives a lot of cues when he's lying. Darren has problems. I don't like liars. I don't like to say people are liars, but there has been some demonstrably things that have been proven false coming from certain individuals. I don't think it's Wortman at the big stop. It doesn't add up. I don't know. You know, this again gets into the speculative thing. I'm more on the disproving end of evidence that they furnish, which of course is very little, but they do throw out lots of things that you can kind of just trash. I don't think, hey, oh, Michael Penny, good to have you in here. Looks like bullet holes are in the passenger side of the gas station. Mazda gas station, Gabriel Wortman the seat. Somebody drove there. Don't know. I heard O'Dear's video. I'm going to have a chat with her because it sounded like bullets in that video. I don't know if I'd heard that. I didn't think I'd heard that before, but very interesting, caught my attention. Again, do subscribe to, oh, it's not down there. My apologies. I'm sure she can throw it out. Her channel. She's got all kinds of good stuff. Big help on the team. As is everybody, of course. So he's killed somewhere. Who knows? Who knows? Again, this is speculative, but there's something certainly funny. 3 gas stations, 10:31 becomes 11:23. Big show and tell down there. 1 tactical unit. No. Very much a lot of fuckery, to be blunt. Sorry about that. Plot sickens. Also to 24th was sent Prime Minister letter. See, timing very important. And when did the letter come out? You see, I bet you the day that it came out. So like the press, certain evidence furnished around the 12th of May, I believe it was. Was that the first warrant release? 12th of May, certain things came out. All of a sudden, just. And then I think it was the 19th. Brenda came out on was it the 12th on Brenda? And in one paper, she didn't want to be identified, brought forward by Linda and Jean to the paper, which of course, you know, that makes sense. You phone Linda and Jean when you have a problem. Unless they're friends. Most of the time, I would probably just phone the paper. Probably the RCMP, and if they had disregarded what I'd said, then I would call the paper. I don't think I would go straight to Jean and Linda and then go to the paper, Jean and Linda, and then Jean and Linda set up the meeting with Brenda Bow, who's friends with Glenn and friends with Robin. Oh, we'll have to touch on those ones again. Got some new stuff about all that. It's rather interesting. Now, let's see what other comments we have in here, and then we'll get to the 33-minute call. Writing a script. Yeah, there was something about writing. Gunman can be anyone in my thoughts. That is the way they use it. So they didn't have, you know, but there was something he said. They said, they asked about the timeline, and he said, oh, we're still writing that up or something. And I was like, it struck me as odd. That was Chris decided to say that. Like the gunman. We encountered the gunman that night. I'm like, You did what? Excuse me? Some point during the evening. I'm like, badge. There's all these ones that nobody ever really is pushing hard on. I know Old Eater's got some videos out now going at them, and she's been going at them for a long time too. So there are certain points. Badge is another good one. Where's the badge from exactly? You get them encased in polyurethane RCMP badges. They're pretty useful. And those paperweighty things, I don't even think they're really the real badge. They're just a replica kind of thing with a number on it. Too many lies to keep them straight, yes. Satan is the father of lies and murderer from the beginning. Yeah, that's probably true. A lot of bad things going on around. Lots of sounds of bullets after the cop showed up. I see it now. I never picked up on the bullets. No, it messed up on the sound. Sorry for any misunderstanding. I noticed it as well. Okay, yeah, I was like, bullets? I'd never heard that before. It was quite loud. They're shooting at him. I'm like, whoa. Maybe. Oh. Is that from Sarah's video? The uh-oh. Did they insert sound effects into a video? Oh, that would be disastrous, Weather Girl. I see people's careers. If some of this stuff is going on, I'm seeing, Mercer, some of these people's careers are not going in good directions. If you're falsifying things, lying about things, not correcting things, of CBC, lots of those going on over there. Lots of them on 13 hours. Guy's video on the highway, they heard shots well after the cops showed up. But did we hear it? It's like the Shubenacadie video. There's talk of gunfire, but then you can't hear any. So it's not to say that there wasn't any, but you don't hear any. It's just people talking of it. And Washington. Okay, private messages. Still a buddy here in town selling all kinds of badges. Old police police ones. Old. Must be like that fellow who's attached to Global and has the same last name that's in a certain family also. Whew. With his car. He's very proud of his cop car. The one with the bubble on the roof from the 1950s. He knows who he is. Some of you may know who I'm referring to. It was supposed to be music, I believe. Okay, I'm going to have to... Maybe you can... Do you mind sending me where that's from? And I'll review it. Because if there's something going on there, that would be not very good. And of course, I wouldn't want to say anything if I'm wrong. They just shot a cop right in front of us. Yeah, that one. 2. There was that one. But you never heard any sound. Anyways, now, moving along. 33 minutes. I'm going to have to re-listen to that one. That call. 33 minutes. And thank you, Sad, for picking out the calls. So we don't have to scrub through. Let's just go back to 32:58. How's that?
These friends of mine are people that I so
too are passed on, but it's like your creation. You build something and then suddenly it's destroyed, and it's a shame. So I just wanted to bring that up. A lot of people don't realize that was my subdivision. It was a beautiful farm, ran right to the water. It was an unusual property because it was sand and gravel on the beach.
Yeah.
just a beautiful place. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up and mention it. There's other things that bother people. This is one that bothers me.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Bill.
All right.
Appreciate it. 902-405-6000. Bert, good morning.
Hi, how are you, Todd?
I'm well, you?
I'm good. I wanted to make a comment about Portapic if I could.
Sure.
And it's in regard to that night when Gabriel was shooting everybody, and his partner was supposedly in the woods or something like that. Now, at 12 o'clock, my brother and I were talking about what was going on in Portapic, because there was all kinds of alerts coming out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And they were coming out of BC because at that time, around 12, in BC, it was 8 o'clock. So I forget if it was her sister that was coming out with all these alerts, or if it was a friend of hers saying that she was an abused woman and she had nothing to do with the shooting and the fires or anything. So there was direct contact between her and somebody in BC at midnight our time. So if nobody knows anything, and all of these alerts are coming from, and my brother calls his brother and tells him about what the hell's going on down around Truro somewhere. There's a shooting down there. If we knew it, why didn't the media know it? Why didn't they report on it?
Well,
Todd, I talked to you that morning at 10 o'clock, and I tried to tell you about Gabriel. I knew him. I talked to him quite often. I knew who he was. I tried to explain it to you. And no media people were saying anything. And that was, if I knew that at 12 o'clock that night, and that your show or any media from 12 o'clock that night reported nothing.
Okay, Bert, let me
So you
explain.
talk about the
want me?
RCMP and you put the blame on them.
Right.
Man, oh man.
Okay, Bert, I'm gonna let you.
Look
Bert,
in the mirror, my
Bert,
friend.
I'm gonna let you go and explain it. So listen to the radio, and I'm gonna explain to you why. Okay?
I think we deserve an answer.
All right, I'm gonna give it to you right now. So
Thank
listen to
you.
your radio. Here's the thing: we in the media have one channel in which we report this type of thing through, and that is the police or the fire department or something like that. That is how we operate. We don't go on the air based on somebody calling me and saying this is what's happening, because if I report that and it's false information, then we can, there's all types of real serious legal ramifications at play. We cannot do that. Now, people can go on Facebook and Twitter and tweet out their whatever disinformation they want. Now, I was getting Bert, you weren't the only one calling me that morning. I got all kinds of people, and we were working the phones hard to the RCMP trying to get answers. Many, countless requests demanding answers so we could alert the public. But until we, as a radio station, as an accredited radio station, responsible journalist, it's just how the business is. We have to get it from the cops. That's just how it works. Like it or not. So that's why. That is simply why. Because imagine if I just simply reported whatever anybody randomly called me and told me, guess what? There would be some real problems. So that's just how it is. 902-405-6000 or 877-80.
Curious. There's interesting things I can see in there, but I don't know. They would just be speculation. Those of you who can remember, I'm curious because I wasn't even in the picture at that point in time. Tara was still waiting for an answer and hadn't even called me yet. Oh, yeah, that was a tough phone call. Anyway, there's always a talk and a discussion about how the emergency alert wasn't used. I'm curious as to what did the media themselves do above and beyond the fucking tweeting and reporting of tweeting here and there. Because let's just say, hypothetically, I had a show Obviously, there's people who are above and beyond me, but I had a show, and let's just say it was the Rick Howe Show. The talk show that runs before the Rick Howe Show. I don't know what that is. Wouldn't it be responsible of the media to just keep reporting on it, warning people constantly, you know? Whoever owns the radio station being like, well, obviously it's big business. Who's this one? Rogers, of course, down here. These massive conglomerates. But wouldn't it be responsible of the manager, to just give a call down to Rogers and being like, what the fuck? We're taking over the damn radio waves and doing nothing but stay in your homes. Don't go outside. Stay in your homes because the RCMP don't seem to be doing anything. Stay in your homes. Stay in your homes. Or was there actual broadcasting just going on and intermittently spliced with, we just received a tweet and here's what it says. And it seems to be a massive problem. Back to the music. Biff? Is that what was going on? Was that happening on TV too? Because that's irresponsible on these people's part. Rogers and other wonderful organizations that were owning the stations. I remember here in Calgary, during the flood, which did directly affect me, the radio station, I used to listen to the talk radio station here in town. I was very naive. I actually believed in political stuff back then. Anyway, and I was listening to the radio station that morning, and the guy who ran the show, his name was Dave Rutherford. He got into a bit of a scrap with Shaw, I think owned Chorus Radio. Shaw, one of the two owned the radio station here in town. And he did talk radio, and he wanted to just do nothing but flood. And they told him, no, you can't. And he's like, you know what? I'm doing flood. And they fired him. And he was like really long time host. He's Premier Rutherford son. So he's not somebody new around the block. And his father was a premier. My mind is drawing blanks right now. Anyway, and they fired him. He was a long time in journalism. And he just said, I'm going to do the right thing here because people need to know they're going to die in their homes. And they're like, no, it's not important. And he's like, no, I think you should have all of the stations doing that. And they're like, no, we'll just play music. It's okay. And he's like, okay, I'm not in board with that. So I would like to know if radio stations or TV stations equally down in Nova Scotia, were they just broadcasting as per usual? Was Maury or whatever the hell they do these days down there on TV? I don't know. I don't even have cable. I got rid of it years ago, but radio, was the radio blasting out nonstop? Please let me know. I'm in the UK. I got Twitter message. It's linked to my email. I always check that. Wow. You got the notice over in the UK of the RCMP. Are you formally from Nova Scotia, David? Excuse me. Todd should be feeling a touch guilty and should seriously reconsider if he's qualified for his job. I agree with him that, you have to be careful about stuff, right? But, I mean, he should have been saying, stay in your homes, stay in your homes. It appears that this is a disaster. Like, a lot of people are getting mowed down. All of the radio stations should have been saying that as soon as the first tweet about an active shooter came out in the morning. Maybe because save lives. Fuck the RCMP. Just go around the RCMP. People should have done the right thing then. He's so full of it. There's big issues if you only get your information. That most secretive law organization. They're really, I think they've dug themselves such a hole. They're never, ever getting out. Yeah, totally. Got defensive. Shut them down. Shut them down. I haven't used that one in a while. Shut it down. Yeah, everybody changed their tune, eh? Well, certain people do. What is it? 600 million? 600 million? Church hearings? 600 million church hearings? They usually do here as well on Big Dog. You lived in BC. Oh, beautiful. Bring cash. Oh, I don't poor BC's economy. So who was LB talking to? That guy called. Well, obviously it happened. The guy phoned him in the morning. I don't know, either that or he's totally out of his mind. It's one of the two, right? I mean, it's not like he invented it further along in the story. But I didn't listen to the radio, so how do I know? Maybe he did. Maybe Todd doesn't remember. I don't know. My son mentioned something bad happening around Truro at 11 a.m. that morning via social media. Yeah, so it was only social media. I think there were intermittent reports. I remember even looking at the tweet lines from different radio stations, and they would kind of retweet the RCMP tweets a couple of minutes later. But I'm wondering how many radio stations were just typing this stuff out. Potentially they're liable in this. Maybe they can be a named party on Suits. Don't remember anything being broadcast. I woke up the next day to text asking me if I was okay, not knowing how big things were out. You know, that's horrific. Horrific. All you had to do, like that one isn't like you need to know the data. You can just say, listen, I'm here. I want to tell you to stay at home. Here's the following things we've heard. You got to stay at home. Make sure you're safe. Protect your families. Stay in your home. Here's what the RCMP have the latest thing that we've heard. But there appears to be a situation. Stay in your home for now. You know, no. Because save lives. You can call in accidents and cars backed up and they report on that. Okay? Nova Scotia citizens question. Yeah, who was talking to? Of course, we have seen a few people reporting on this tragedy flip back and forth. I think it's that they have to concede some ground. This is what's going on. You know, it's like the 22, including a pregnant woman. Do you see? Because the pressure from you guys is mounting. They know it. That's why they watch. That's why they know about what Tara says ahead of time. Let's go back here a little bit too here. Always good comments, and then we'll get to last call. Of course, we just see. If it wasn't for Tyler's Facebook post, we wouldn't have known. We were getting ready to head for a drive out that way that morning. There were a lot of people posting on Facebook. A lot of people. I know one person that's in here that was posting a lot quite early on with very good knowledge knowledge that the RCMP wasn't disclosing. And it was quite all over Facebook. So, they were doing their best to save lives. I wonder if the radio stations and TV stations were. But again, you can let me know. And let me know in the comments if you're watching after this, please. I was up on the 18th and we were discussing it right after it happened. People posted pics of fires and heard shots on Facebook. On the Facebook. What is the dialogue here? You guys are using my terms. I kind of, it's funny. Best source of accurate info was those of us who are listening to Scanner posting. Okay, see? Not calling people out. Scary stuff. They just shut down the police Truro scanner. Shut down. Makes you want to get a scanner. I don't know. Previous to this whole thing, it still kind of baffles me a little bit, the principle of the scanner running in the background, but I've had a lot of conversations about that. Oh yeah, we just sit around, it's playing on the kitchen table and like, oh, we never did that. I guess we had CVs and trucks and things once in a while. It was not like we sat around and listened to stuff. Definitely not scanners. I remember them at Radio Shack. I was kind of always like, what is that? They would just have to say unconfirmed. Yep. Good point. Good point. Very unconfirmed reports, but we're hearing it from social media that the following things are happening. We're keeping an eye on things. This is what the RCMP are telling us. The RCMP might, funnily enough, then turn around and be like, no, that's wrong, and here's the correct information. You might actually push them into a corner to say something. Watching the Facebergs. Watching the Faceberg. This is catching, eh? Country Mama 7. And somehow, Country Mama 7. It's almost like I feel like I know who you are, but I don't. I'm just picking at straws. We'll get to the next call in a moment. Let's see here. Broadcastify. Scanner feed here was at March to Remember 23. That guy run the, okay, yeah. Never did talk to him. He came out kind of late in the story. I'm always skeptical, and I think this is important at this point in time because the shiny things that are getting thrown out, very intentional, and they want to throw people off because then they can point their finger and say, well, you're wrong, right? Just you have to sift. It's a lot of mind fuckery, but sifting through data carefully and finding out who's who and what team they're playing for, who they know. I'm back. Got my Tims. Welcome back. You got T, 10 p.m. and alert could have gone out, been broadcast overnight. Goof Gunman. Sorry, my mistake. Gunman. The gunman. They've got it all nailed down, don't they? It's one guy. It's an abuse story. There you go. Go home. Let's have a run. Marion, isn't that interesting? Did you have a chance to chat? Scanner equals radio replacement. See, I don't know these things. I didn't know how to pronounce names. Did you get Tim's for the rest of the class? Couple of minutes, have known him and his wife for years. Awesome, they attend. My aunt had one. Your aunt had one? Hear anything on that? Did your aunt hear anything special? I believe that there were some messages there was one message that was not in the Broadcastify tapes. In the supposed original one, being the Colchester tapes. The Picto tapes, well, they've kind of come and gone. I think that may have been a shiny thing. Just maybe. It got pretty... Well, I'd like to see the scientific evidence on that. Certainly doesn't line up. Certainly doesn't line up on 4 different feeds. Problem. Different places. Same messages. Can't work. You got a T. My spelling is in good. This device makes me make a lot of mistakes. Yeah, it's a damn device, eh? We count on devices these days. I used to volunteer with an old cop, and I was, working, doing my volunteer work incorporated, or encompassed, driving, a lot of driving. And one day his GPS went down, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, what? You're a cop. Like, you should know this fucking city like the back of your hand. I never use a GPS. Well, rarely. Kudos to the young 2 ladies who offered coffee at the march. Thank you. Thank you to all those people who showed up. Inclement weather and all. Perhaps 18th next month, Halifax. I think that might work with 23 roses again. Red. Picto tapes had Halifax calls in it. Think you're behind. No, I'm behind. I'm, of course, behind. Best scanner guy has backups. Okay, well, maybe. Which means they were mixed in with other feeds. Ooh. No, that wouldn't happen, though. Those crazy conspiracies. Oh, yes, we need to move the time back. Look at how many times the conspiracy theory has changed the narrative. One day that would make a phenomenal book. Look where it was said. Is there a place to listen to scanner calls all night and the next day? Yes, Broadcastify. He would have the originals. A friend did hear lots and was texting me while I was back at work on the 19th. Thank goodness. There were people keeping other people informed, which may have saved lives. Hopefully did save lives. But again, who knows what all was really going down, because we have Leathers writing with derp, dilapidated. I live on the shoreline not far from Portapique. We did know a few people in common. Well, I would be interested in speaking. I guess I'm not right about who, but Odier has some videos with some of the scanner feeds. I did start that project at one point. That was a monumentous task. And given all the information, I don't know how Odier does that exactly. But I remember I started trying to cut the tapes and have the time in, and you had to put the minute by minute, and I was like, oh no, it takes a long time. I did finish a few, but didn't think so. Last call, 4110. Okay, we're going to get there. Promise. Wait a minute, is this proto-conspiracy stream? What's going down? Shut down! That's what they'd like. Freezing out. Just like last year. But it was dry. Last year, big puddles behind Clinton. Big, huge puddles. Mucky roads and such. Clean cars. My sarcasm. Save Canadian lives, take away RCMP weapons. Again, I'm not a big person to say defund the police. I'm never that way. The RCMP need a serious house cleaning. Probably the whole top end has to go. And total reformation of what they do. Probably just stick with federal stuff. Bloated organization. Very prideful and destructive. Not very compassionate. Look for Oh Dear's channel for scanner videos. Hello, Cheryl. Blinks. There's an alternative reality stream. We believe in conspiracy theory. Wortman didn't kick Lisa, beat her up, and drag her by the hair for her to show up looking like normal at Jouters. That's crazy. What are you talking crazy for, Nova Scotia citizen? Just stop that stuff. Total tinfoil. My tinfoil prop is, or aluminum, as somebody quite correctly pointed out. Aluminum hat is missing. Yeah, I could do this. Why I have some strange things in my room, computer room. Okay, I could wear one of these. I could be like the guy off Better Call Saul, you know, the solar blankets. The electro stuff is really getting at me. There was big, huge puddles. I don't think there's big, huge puddles down in Portapic in the ditches that I saw in behind from the videos that I've seen. But I have some interesting information to bring out about that, too. Gosh, there's all kinds of goodies to get to at some point, but I'm going to have to get through this next period of article propaganda balls and destroy what we can and take care of our family members that are getting slogged. Thank goodness Tara is the only one who seems to be directly getting attacked right now. Hopefully that'll stay. That one will defeat that one, and then that'll be the end of that. People will learn their lesson. Stop messing around with good folks. Thanks, says Deanna. Going checking out Odeer's channel. I hope Odeer's throwing out her link so that everybody knows. Saw Steve in here last night. Maybe he went through Car Wash and Bible Hill. Of course, because you know, when you're on the run and you're the most hunted person in the world, you know that's what you do. You stop for car washes, like you get gas in 3 different stations. Are you wearing aluminum tinfoil undergarments right now? It could be like a certain religion, special undergarments. No, but I will. Maybe I'll see if I can get something going with this. I know I have it for a purpose. This store has been out of business for a long time. I think this was part of some. Oh, I see what that's stuff from an old farm truck I've got sitting in here. Cold yesterday. Imagine 8 hours, but you just get a blue coat and you hide under a tree, and it's all good. Don't worry, with no shoes. Right. Chuck from Better Call Saul. Yeah, that's this. That's this. I'm sure I can do something like that. A typical lawyer. That's offensive, sad. Hello, countryside. Hello. RCMP are a problem. Gunmen knew they were useless. Gunman, gun who, something, war ban. I was feeling cold with a jacket and a hoodie, plus 2 pairs of leggings, under jeans, and winter boots. And froze. The secret is yoga clothes, no shoes, a jacket that materializes in a warrant that's sworn out much later in the game after people are like, you'd freeze to death. Oh, let's swear out a warrant. And poof, in comes a statement. Blue coat, don't you know? Mm-hmm. All right, good night, everyone. Take care. All right, you're off to sleep. Working the shift work. RCM Brass, the problem. Oh dear's channel, thank you. See you later, sad. If you're driving on a dirt road, best to take a white car and stay clean. Nothing sticks. White cars. But be sure to ban all white cars because they're dangerous, those white cars. Because sometimes they show up on the highway and wraparound stickers just get inserted on them and stuff. Those secret society people that wear blue coats. I like that video. Oh, fairy tree. Here we go. Hello again down by the sea. How's it going? Hard to believe it's almost been a year now. Okay, can't read that next part, but thank you, Jack. Very kind of you. Very kind. Gun woman. Could be gun woman. Could be gun man and woman. Could be gun people. I could say it's aliens. But that's conspiracy. You notice how conspiracy is over here, but certain other places that talk about UFOs, that's not conspiracy. Interesting. Okay, thank you, Marianne, for linking. That's O'Dear's channel. Thank you. Keebler Elves. I got long downfield parka on yesterday, and it was chilly. It's the secret. The secret is clothes and makeup, probably. Gotta wear more makeup, maybe. Gun family. I was totally not dressed for the weather and froze, and it was only a short time. Of course, this was just like a logic. These things are logic, no brainers. Can't be in two places at one time. That one's going to come.
01-8255. We'll continue with your calls when we come.
41, did he say? Let's just go here.
For 3 months or a couple months and then reopen. I just don't see how that's going. That's not profiting us at all. People are losing jobs. People are still dying.
I'm not sure what happened to Jackson. Nonetheless, George, you're going to have the last say. Go ahead, George.
Hi, buddy. How you doing?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
I just heard Bert talking there, and I kind of agree with him to a degree. Todd, I know you guys don't report on everything that people are talking about without making it official. But those tweets that were sent out all night, all the news media does get them, I think. Yeah. All the reporters have access to it.
Yeah.
But my point being is 90% of the media around here at night is just pre-recorded, typed in stuff from somewhere else. There's no live people talking or on the air.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway.
Yep, that's true.
So that hinders information getting out. It could have been a big explosion. It could have been anything. Nobody would know about it, like you say, unless you had a public alert. Yeah. But all the tweets go to all the radio stations, all the media, and everybody else, especially reporters. They got it too. I'm sure they do.
Yeah, we got it, and we reported what we reported on that tweet and what the RCMP and their release. They tweeted out their release, and we reported on that as soon as we got here that morning. The first newscast, that was the lead.
That's what I mean, Todd. Yeah, but that's my point. That morning, to me.
I don't know if he's going to talk about it, but that's just actually, funnily enough, what I was asking about the media. What did the media do? Was it just like a little snippet? Here's the news. Oh yeah, there's a tweet that just came in. Or did they sit there and blast it out? Do you know that you can FOIA that? You can FOIA the Privy Office and Privy Council Office, probably New Brunswick also keeps it, and who is the other people that would be? RCMP, I can't remember the wording, all media communications, print, video, radio, in relation to the events that transpired on April 18th and 19th. You can FOIA that. It's always interesting. They come back partly disclosed sometimes in some of these events I've looked at. Anyway, let's continue.
You should have somebody working overnight.
Well, it's George. George, that's a whole other conversation. Thanks for the call, George. I appreciate it. Why do we not have staff newsrooms 24/7? Well, at one time we did, but that's just the nature of the landscape, of the media landscape that we live in right now. That's another conversation for another day, perhaps.
That's probably the end of the program. You have a staff with a microphone. Here you go. Go home. Stay in your home. Don't go anywhere. Don't go out. It appears as though there's a dangerous situation. We're not getting a lot of information from the RCMP, but what it does indicate is that you should probably stay in your home and keep repeating that. Fuck the media and playing music and Bachelorette. Let's get, some humanity here. Don't hide behind those masks like at the RCMP station. Is that the end of it? The guy got cut off before George. Very disheartening. Truro police posted earlier they were having firearms training today. Now it's removed. Oh, it's like the ghost car pulling people over right outside Bible Hill. What the fuck are you doing, man? Sensitivity training. They always have these big fancy departments for all this. How about they use that? How about they use a little sensitivity training over at the Globe Mail with Greg? Yeah. He could use some sensitivity training. Not being very compassionate and thoughtful. Not getting angry at him. Just simply saying, dude, do unto others. Do unto others. If they drove to work and saw an accident, they would not report on it, or they would have to wait for the RCMP to say it would happen. What Indo was doing that day. Or Halifax media. Waterfront media. Was Sean over there at that point? I don't know what they were all doing. Doing things with each other. We had cops with each other. We had cops, roadblocks set up Pictou weekend. Like, what? Couldn't set up a roadblock when there was a killer on the loose. Lots of questions. Certainly asking questions is problematic. Conspiracy. They have firearms training all the week. Maybe they do now. Hopefully the RCMP will take a lesson from that, because clearly the fire hall was a problem with the fire hall. Todd doesn't ask enough questions. He just shut down. You're hurting my feelings. I'm being exposed. Terrible what they're doing in Victoria Park, though. They should have to wait a few weeks. I have to tread such a careful line. Indo was at the scene and was still Mike when there was still smoke. Oh, okay. He got there fast and got access. How? Wow. John Morris, PEI, borders closed. A lot of photos. All seen all over the world, taken from those great angles that you couldn't quite tell. They were all taking the photos from the very good angles. Wonder if anybody was going through the photos before they were released. Push bar. Front of the car. Conveniently, people standing in the way. Signs pushed down for better photo ops. Come on. Let's be real here. How is Indo allowed to use drone? Not sure. Good question. Indo's in the wind. He's everywhere. Indo. Let's see. Should we close with that? Might as well have a happy note to close on, right? I mean, there's lots of negativity. Please write your own messages to good evening. Good evening. Oh, it's good evening, Sharon. My apologies. My apologies. I'm very suspicious. I've lived a life that I've had to be, but it served me well. Doesn't make me the most friendly person around, as some of you who have spoken to me can attest to. I don't have probably the most sensitive disposition. I'm kind of like my granddad, just what you do. Otherwise, you can shut it. I really got chastised for that one. I really wish I had taken a screenshot of that. I did delete a post on Facebook in frustration. I just kind of didn't feel like taking other people to task. It's not, I don't want to take people to task. Thin blue line, there were some comments though. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. There was this is part of all the stuff that I kind of am trying to get at. I did speak about this in the video, but there were some points raised on Facebook that I never addressed. This here is like sticking good with not so good. 23 lives, obviously very important to acknowledge front and center. We can tell kind of where that's going, and also what is up here. Now, this is not, again, taking away from police, but I had a comment that I was going after 911 people and all of this other stuff, and I'm like, no, actually, I'm not. I didn't get into it, though. Let's look at, I don't know, colors of thin attacking EHS and fire. I think it was corrections. I got a few 911 blue thin lines. Okay, because there's actually a code how that all works. There's only one for blue. Okay, so if we go to images here, they represent different things. Let's have a look. This maybe Google is better. The thin line, okay? Can that get shown as bigger? No, of course not. Well, we can do this maybe. Maybe we'll just do that. Corrections. Sean Alana. But that's the thin silver line. Law enforcement is the, of course, thin blue line, like that one. Oops. Don't mind who. It's just I took it off the net. So that's what that represents, right? Versus, you've got fire service, which is the thin red line. Emergency medical services, which is the thin white line. Dispatchers, 911 people, is the thin yellow line or gold line. There is denotations to each color. So to have the thin blue line with the flag is very important. And, one of the key people in the story, and that will come with time, that this person has that tattoo on their arm. This is about people, 23 of them, including a policewoman who died in the line of duty, including Aaron, including Tom Bagley, including, the list of 23 is all of them. Chris and Beaton, and it's a list, right? And I'm not going to sit here and ramble them off one by one, but we're talking about 23 lives who are human. And that's what it's about. It's not an us and them. That is a utilization of the tools from above, like a lot of different things in this story. There's big components that are going on, and being aware of, because we're conditioned certain ways to believe certain things, and they aren't necessarily so. That's all I try to entertain here. I was looking, oh yes, here it is. This is what I was looking for. We can close with that. I don't know, makes me laugh. I can't talk about who it is at this point in time. It probably shouldn't at this point in time. Please be understanding. There's times and places for things, and it's a game with them. Sadly, you got to play their game. Fuck them, man. I'll play your game and take you down. Now, let's close with Mr. Blue.
I'm blue, I've been deed, I've been died, 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 I've been deed, I've been died. I'm blue, I've been deed, I've been died, 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 I've been deed, I've been died. Yo, listen up, here's the story about a little guy that lives in a blue world. And all day and all night, and everything he sees is just blue. Like him, inside and outside. Blue his house with a blue little window and a blue Corvette. And everything is blue for him and himself and everybody around. Cause he ain't got nobody to listen. I'm blue, I've been deed, I've been died, 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 I've been deed, I've been died. I'm blue, I've been deed, I've been died, 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 I've been deed, I've been died. Blue house with a blue window. Blue is the color of all that I wear. Blue are the streets and all the trees are blue. I have a girlfriend and she is so blue. Blue are the people here that walk around. Blue like my Corvette, it's in and outside. Blue are the words I say and what I think. Blue are the feelings that that live inside me. I'm blue, I'm a deed, I'm a died, 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 I'm a deed, I'm a died. I'm blue, I'm a deed, I'm a died, 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 I'm a deed, I'm a died. I have a blue house with a blue window. Blue is the color of all that I wear. Blue are the streets and all the trees are blue. I have a girlfriend and she is so blue. Blue are the people here that walk around. Blue like my Corvette, it's in and outside. Blue are the words I say and what I think. Blue are the feelings that live inside me. I'm blue, I'm a deed, I'm a died, 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 I'm a deed, I'm a died. I'm blue, I'm a deed, I'm a died, 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 I'm a deed, I'm a died.
Yeah, she should make more videos. You know, actually, I'm not quite done. I'm like fucking at Colombo. Just one more thing. I'll leave you with a couple of things. One, I'm going to give you guys a new photo. I don't think that's been seen before. I have a few, so kick around. Might as well drop one. I don't think this one's been seen before. So I'm going to drop it into the Discord first. And I'll send it, of course, over to Julie for her excellent backup and filing and all that great stuff, because I just can't do that stuff. I'm going to do this here. Right here. I don't think this one was seen. The bike is, but I don't remember this one. Now, Perth Walker. Let's just put it there for now, because that'll make it easy. If you guys have seen it already, then fine. I just don't recall it. And there are some interesting details in it. So, drop it in the Discord first. Send it over to Julie. My apologies. There we go. You know, it has to be analyzed. And I'll drop it in the general chat for people to have a little look at also. I just need choice on music. If I have some music, maybe I can make something up. There we go. Has some interesting stuff here. I don't recall this photo. We have more of Mr. It's not the best resolution. I'm going to do this here. Okay. Maybe we can blow it up a little bit. You guys seen this? Yep. But with the SWAT team, the SWAT van, sorry, the armored vehicle, and the ERT teams all going around. We have more picture of what he's wearing. You've seen this one? Okay. I showed it before by mistake. Oops. There's no reason to keep this one. So, anyway, it's in the Discord. Guy on the ground, white shirt or light blue. I believe it is white. Geez, I'm just having a flashback to Adrian. I don't recall seeing this one before. I recall an image similar to it, but not with everybody in it. It's clearly taken by the same. So where were the super SWAT teams lurking? Well, again, I'd say that this was they were hanging around. They were just up the road at other gas stations, right? Remember we saw all the videos? Looks like a CPR dummy. The resolution is kind of bad, and I'm sorry. I wish I had technical skills to clean it up, but you know what? Oh dear does. The bent wrist of the body. I don't think I remember seeing this photo, this specific photo, but maybe oh dear can bring me up to speed if she's still around. White undershirt, yeah. That was what I think we concluded way back when, but I don't think we ever got this much and pants and things before. It was a slightly different angle and definitely didn't have, to my recollection, all of the ERT members in here. Just mulling about. Not very good crime scene here. It's a lot of people going around and just doing stuff. We also have what looks to be Halifax Regional over here. Two of them. And then the SWAT vehicle. So what are they doing and when did the SWAT vehicle come in? Because that's not in any of the vehicles. Or sorry, the armored vehicle. Blood on the pavement. Can't tell because it's too distorted. Oh, I think we lost. Oh dear. She is pretty good at cleaning up photos. I need to figure out, there is a couple of programs, but I could never, she's really good at the tech stuff, so. Can't read the plate. Yeah, you can read the plate in other ones. Halifax Regional, wear green as well for their tactical. Okay, so then who is the blues? Who were the blues? The two blues that ran in. Yeah, you couldn't see the pants before. And you can kind of even get the little bit here on his Looks to be like this here. Like here. Those are his feet. Right? That would be his feet there. It's an odd looking photo. But maybe you guys can handcuff a dead guy. Oh, because he was under arrest at 10:40. Don't you know? Don't you know? Patrol officers are also ERT members. So if they already had at work on a shift, immediately pulled off and thrown in with other guys who get their who get all their shit because they were off duty. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm quite following. Patrol officers are also ERT members. If they are already at work on shift, they're immediately pulled off and thrown in with other guys. I see. Okay. So they're just wearing their blues. Okay, interesting. Didn't know that. As HRP called out around 4 a.m. Okay. Well, just thought I'd give it your consideration is one thing. The other thing was I did look into that group that I was talking about, so I need to correct myself. That group, Jean and Linda's other group, was formed. This was important. This paper, I don't know much about it, but I've definitely seen a lot of interesting things come out of it. It seems very much a Linda and Jean paper. Anybody who has any information about it, love to know. This is the public service announcement, Nova Scotia Feminists Fighting Femicide statement on the inquiry into the mass shooting July 30th. But I liked how this was written. Have you seen that before? For immediate release. RCMP write for immediate release, and another group in this story writes for immediate release. I see. Okay. I did archive the article, but it does refer to the fact of this group. The Nova Scotia Fighting Femicide, FFF. We're among the first community voices to request. We were among. The actual group is, what is it? The Canadian Observatory for Fighting Femicide, or what is it? Canadian Observatory for on femicide or something like that. Many police people involved in it. Many police people on their board in Nova Scotia. I never even researched the background of the other people, but there were some interesting statements, and they were, funnily enough, the best of my knowledge, the very first people to come out. I went through that a long time back, but I have some files on all that. What is it here? I'll get the group just so that everybody's on the same page. Mm-hmm. There we go. The Canadian Femicide Observatory for Justice and Accountability. Okay, it's an interesting group. We have some interesting people in it. We have Dolly. Oh, it looks like this folder is missing certain things. Interesting. Oh, there's definitely stuff missing here. We have Dolly Mosier is one of the people in she is Victim Services, Halifax Regional Police. She also sits on the Canadian Observatory. Dolly joined the RCMP integrated role with RCMP. 2003, domestic violence coordinator. Here's her profile on the Canadian Femicide Observatory for Justice and Accountability. She's one of the board members. They have a very huge board. Dolly Mosier, coordinator at the Halifax Regional Police Services Unit, and has spent 15 years domestic violence case coordinator and integrated role of the RCMP. Dolly is the co-founder and past president of the Silent Witness Nova Scotia. Silent Witness Nova Scotia has collected extensive data on 52 homicides of women in Nova Scotia and their by intimate partners since 1990. So 30 years, 52 homicides. What are we talking about? On every couple of years. Sorry, not quite 2 a year. And I'm not diminishing this by any stretch, but the numbers, we just have to look at the data. Speaks to research at various law enforcement agencies throughout Nova Scotia. That would be one of the ladies who sits on it. Another lady that sits on it is this lady. Does she have anything? University of Guelph. Refugees. Kind of got a bunch of things going on there. Domestic Violence Steering Committee for the courts. Probably transgender stuff. No, it does. I'm not kidding about that. I mean, I was going to say it probably has something to do with police in here. I'm just looking. Restorative justice. She does do gender stuff too, looks like. That would be, sorry, Shiva Norpana. Shiva Norpana. I'm really sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name. There's stuff missing out of this folder. There's definitely a lot more police involvement with this certain organization. Maybe I have this. I have the wrong folder right now. Let's see here. Oh, shit. Yes, okay. Is this it? I've got my folders here for. Amanda Dale is the head of it. This is where we first kind of heard April 20th, 7:09 in the morning. So angry, waiting to find out more. What weapons, what license, previous history, gun control, da-da-da-da-da. The tweet was deleted. It had reference to Mr. Wortman, 7 o'clock in the morning. All these people are interconnected. Barbara Schaefer Clinic. Familiar with that from somewhere else. I'm trying to see here what else is in here. Nothing much on that end. So we got a lot of stuff here, right? Commissioner Kim Stanton. That folder is empty. Is that it I have? Kim's very interested in letting people know how they can register. That's very interesting. My stuff is very cleaned out here. There's all kinds of screenshots of what she was, her former history, which of course is a lawyer for Aboriginal rights as well as feminine stuff. And Jean, of course, is married to the RCMP. I mean, you get a lot of stuff going on here. And again, it could just be nothing. But what was her husband's name? Where's that? Jerry William. He served in the RCMP for 30 years. Headquarters. Yeah, better be careful with that stuff. Tread on careful ground here. Lenore, I've got. Oh, yes, I do have a bunch of. What are these messages? To Lenore. Darcy and Nick. I'm a member of the government. I was working on the issue while marches were taking place. Sorry I couldn't come. Sorry about that. Sorry. What else do we have here? There's the. You may be unaware that I have made it public since the 29th that I was requesting a public inquiry. I do know, however, and my conscience is clear. Yes, your voices and marches were very much appreciated, including by me. You helped prove what I have been saying all along. That's why we did it together. The people. I mean, there's lots of stuff. What else do I have here? So before we forget, something like this. Don't be fooled. 22. 22 is a kind of a tell, but they're getting rid of that now too. It was a tell before. Anybody who said 22, you knew. Problem. They still say 22, probably a problem. Yeah, it is a problem. But there are people now who are kind of adapting, mutating. Anyway, thanks very much for the one more thing. Anyways, I do hope everybody does take great care of themselves. Make sure you eat and sleep and be good to one another. Don't write nasty things or do nasty things or dox people inadvertently or do whatever, Take the higher ground. God bless the 23. And yes, today, Heidi Stevenson. God bless her and her family. God bless you all.